Present.
Nikki Cadillac,
Here.
Jack Kelly,
Here.
Russell Minor,
Here.
Steve Mahoney, Karthik Sakaran, no. Eileen Sickler,
Here.
Jess Sutherland.
Here, Betsy, just make sure the microphone is close to you because you're kind of talking away from the microphone, so it's a little harder to hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
how about that? Okay, Betsy Hughes here. Okay, we have a quorum. Is there any public comment about something that we're not going to be talking about tonight? Seeing that there is none, let's go to the minutes. So the minutes were all sent out. Hopefully people had a chance to look at it. There was one modification to the minutes, which was in the area where we're talking about recall in number 6, where we talked about recall, and in the motion, the adjustment was made that we made the change to 20% rather than 30%. Okay? So that modification was made, and I believe, Nana, that's the only one, right? That is the only change? Jack, do you have something?
Yeah, if somebody's online, it should be noted at the beginning, they're attending online.
Okay.
And I think we had somebody online, Stephanie Lessing was online.
Okay. So we'll make the note that
Yeah,
Stephanie was online?
If we note it at the beginning, then we don't have to note it in roll call votes.
Okay. All right, so with those two modifications to the minutes, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay. Corey?
Yes.
Sorry, wait a minute. Nikki?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Betsy, yes. Okey-doke. Thank you very much. Get the agenda. So before we go any further, I want to introduce Michael Ward. Michael Ward is with the Collins Center and is Pat's partner in crime here. So this is his first attending meeting in person. I think he was online for another one, but the first one in person. So welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Okay. So, and for his benefit, I guess through the roll call, you probably got who's who. So we will forego the introductions. So subcommittee updates. I do have one public input, which is one actually that we had from before around the issue we're going to be talking tonight, which was the issue of residency requirements. And as I usually do for those of you here who are not part of the group or have not dialed in before, when I get public comments through email, the website, or whatever, I generally will read them, not attributing them to anybody, any one person, but just the sentiment that is presented. And as we're going to be discussing it tonight, I thought it would be appropriate to read it again. I already did once, but I want to make sure that we have this fresh in our minds. So the question was that the request to have Government Review Committee provide an opinion on the matter because this person was thinking of submitting a warrant article to make a change to a town bylaw that would allow non-residents to serve on one of the commissions. Under Massachusetts state law, there are no mandatory residency requirements set for that commission, leaving the decision to individual municipalities. And there is an inconsistency today between Burlington's commissions and committees, some requiring residency and some not. If someone wanted to downsize to a smaller home, or they would likely have to search outside of Burlington, and therefore lose eligibility, and therefore would not be able to continue on the committee where they have served and have very specialized knowledge about the community and the topic that they discuss. So, and also allowing non-resident membership would also include some with connections to the community, such as business owners, and we could limit it by saying local business owners or former members of that commission or something along that line. So the question to us was, does that make sense? And is this something that we want to talk about relative to the charter? So we will be discussing this in a little bit, but that is the public input that is relevant for our discussion tonight. And we will be talking about that after the subcommittee updates. Matt's not here, but hopefully everybody got the list of the bylaw and charter recommendations, the spreadsheet, and went into it, made comments, and signed off that you did so. If you haven't, please make sure you do before our next meeting. I think it's very important. This is a document that we're going to use as we start thinking about, to make sure, number one, that we have everything. Russ has also put together a document that compares bylaws to what we have in the charter and vice versa. So we're really double checking to make sure that we have not forgotten anything or overlooked anything in this process. So anyhow, thanks to everybody involved, but please, let's have everybody weigh in on that. Nikki?
The report is still in process. We sent it to committee for feedback. So that was Russell, Jack, and who was our third? Steve. Got some feedback from Jack that we implemented. We got some really great feedback from Jess, actually, as well, that we're going to be implementing as well.
Not yet.
Not yet. But we are going to work to get as final a product as possible to y'all for the August, is it 11th? Meeting?
Yeah, if we can. That'd be
11th or 18th, whatever the next meeting is, we're going to try to get as finalized as a product as we can, while acknowledging that we're still going to be adding information into it as we continue to finalize the things that we're still finalizing. So that's kind of all I have to say about that. Looking good. Feeling good about it.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Hi, Bill. Just make note that Bill Byer has now joined us, so, great. All right. So we're now going to talk about residency requirements. I'm going to hand it over to Pat. I do know we have an interested party on this here with us. I encourage you, Bill, it's Bill Boyden, who has joined us for this meeting. And so, he will ask any questions that he has. And I'm going to take it away.
Thank you. So we did distribute a short memo outlining what I'm going to be talking about with residency requirements, which you're welcome to follow along, but I'll repeat this now. Really, there's two issues with respect to residency requirements, and that is, do you want to address them in the bylaw versus do you want to address them in the charter? And you have many choices. You can mandate residency requirements. You can be silent on the issue. You can, require non-residents to be allowed if you want it. In general, Burlington's bylaws vary in that some bylaws specifically require residency and others are silent. In the peer communities that we've chosen to look at, the language is also mixed. In general, for most of them, the bylaws the charter is silent on residency issues. For some, such as Reading, there's a requirement for residency for certain boards and committees established by elected boards. In addition, the bylaws in Reading require residency for members of all boards and committees unless otherwise specified. But in general, there's a mix. And so there are choices that can be made in many directions. What we've talked about a lot through this whole process is the fact that essentially changing a charter is harder than changing a bylaw. So there are some choices that you may wish to remain silent on the charter and address more specifically in the bylaw so that you could make changes easier or have a little more flexibility. So even if language in the charter and bylaws is silent, in general, members of boards and committees are largely chosen from residents in any event. Considering them is for appointed positions, it's really going to vary depending on the unique features and needs of both the municipality and the individual boards and commissions. So, as I talked about in the memo, some of the reasons for preferring resident appointments, resident requirements, include the fact that boards and committees are providing advice and fulfilling statutory duties on local policy matters involving local municipalities. In general, residents have a unique understanding of the issues that face their local governments. They have an interest in the policy and administrative decisions. Limiting boards and committees to resident members gives residents an opportunity to understand and be involved in their government. So, for example, a lot of the appointed boards and committees may be on-ramps for people to get more involved in other local government committees, the elected boards or more substantial committees. And requiring residency does tend to encourage the appointing authorities to really recruit for a wide variety of resident members more aggressively. So if they don't have enough members for their boards, rather than reaching outside, they may need a more aggressive internal policy. On the other hand, there are times when it might be a good thing to reach out outside of the pool of residents for boards. For example, we note that some cities and towns in Massachusetts have a number of seasonal residents. So they have people who have second homes there, spend many months in the town and want to get involved in things like the recreation committee so that they can get involved in activities that towns hold over the summer when the seasonal residents are there. On other examples, boards and committees might be having a hard time drawing specific technical experience or education. So for example, just a broad example, maybe an historical commission really needs an expert in certain historical buildings, and so they haven't found anyone in town, and they may decide to draw out from the outside. Other boards and committees might be looking for input from stakeholders who may not be residents, such as business owners or employees or people with other unique connections to the municipality. And some municipalities might be having such severe volunteer shortages that their boards and committees will not be able to function unless they pull in another residency. So, there are certainly times when it's desirable for both. We have noted that, there are some alternatives to full membership in a board or committee. If you're looking to include outside expertise, advice, experience, while still requiring residency, those people can be appointed to a non-voting role or an advisory role. And you can also have the boards reach out for public input from stakeholders like businesses who might not be residents and be on the board, but to have a continual reaching out for expertise. And the third one, which is the boards might hire outside consultants. For example, conservation might hire somebody to take a look at drawings and make sure that they comply with these if they can't get that experience on their board. In the example where someone is, another alternative, if someone is moving outside once they've been a member, there is an alternative to recommend a residency requirement. If you decide to have a residency requirement, you can also consider allowing a former resident to serve out their term. That's another option. So they don't leave right away, but maybe they serve out their term so that they give them time to find somebody to take on that experience afterwards. So, there are a lot of factors to consider. And in general, having a residency requirement in a charter most charters are silent on this, but if there is if there's a very strong preference for a residency requirement, having it in the charter does ensure some consistency across all the boards and committees, although it makes it harder to target specific boards and committees that may have greater needs. For example, those with very highly specialized technical needs. So, the committee can weigh these interests and decide whether to, elevate residency requirements to the charter level, continue to allow the bylaws to individually dictate these, and to determine the residency requirements for each board and committee. While, you certainly can weigh these options, it's really, you have a twofold decision to make, and one is whether to include residency or specifically say there's no residency requirements in the charter, or to have that in the bylaw, either a general residency requirement or allow the individual bylaws for appointed boards and committees to include that information in the bylaws.
Okay, so it's two questions. One is whether we as a committee think this should be included in the charter. And number two, if so, what would it be? What would we include? If it's not going in the charter, obviously, then it would be a bylaw. So, I think that's... So why don't we open this up for discussion?
I just want to throw one note. When I was doing comparisons, there is language in the current version of the charter, specifically when it's defining the finance committee under town meeting in section 213, that does state that there's a, wait, gotta get to the right line. I believe it's basically saying that there is a requirement.
Yeah.
So just a note, that one is in there now of all the things. I know other things we haven't touched on a lot.
Yep,
but-
and we're going to have a talk a little bit later about what boards and committees are in the
Okay.
charter and not in the charter, and you can certainly further refine things in the bylaw. You can have the committee in the charter and refine the residency requirement in the bylaw. For the finance committee, that was a decision that's one of the few appointed boards that's getting pulled into the charter for now, with an understanding that helps define the finance article of the
Right.
charter.
Yeah, I'm not objecting to its presence or anything. I'm noting that it has a residency requirement stated, and that is different from the current bylaws, which did not necessarily include that. So I'm just noting that that was one place that I believe I found a difference. Has yet to be vetted by anybody but me.
Is it not included in the bylaw? Because I thought we pulled in the language from the bylaw.
I think the bylaw says that they some have to be members of town meeting. It specifies whether they're members of town meeting or not. but
A
I don't-
majority of members which shall be composed of, this is the bylaw, the majority of members which shall be composed of persons elected to town meeting. It goes on, the charter language says, oh, wait.
That's the bylaw language, actually. So anyhow.
Let's
I
double
think
check it,
that-
is all I'm saying. I'm pretty sure there's language in there, yeah. The 213, it says, unless otherwise specified by Mass General Law or this charter, all standing committee members shall be residents of the town of Burlington for the duration of their terms. And that's in 213 of Article 2, I believe.
And we're talking, standing committees was...
Oh, okay, sorry, yep.
Matter, the standing committees were committees of town meeting.
Except the first line in the standing committees notes that the establishment of a standing committee, including the finance committee, that's why I thought of it
Right.
as finance committee, but you get it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all on the same thing.
Okay, we're all on the
Make sure
same
it's-
page on that one. Okay. So any other comments about, Nikki?
So I think before we get into a conversation about whether or not we want to say anything about residency, I would say that it would be consistent with our conversation last week about, hold on, elections, term limits. It would be consistent with that conversation to say, this isn't in the charter now. It's not something I think we were planning on putting in the charter. I'm looking at the list of appointed committees. There's a 3 or 4 page list of appointed committees, 4, 5, 6 pages
Where?
on the town website. It goes from audit committee to board of registrars, conservation commission, council on aging, historical commission, all of these. we're not going to put these in the charter. And so I think that it would make sense to remain silent on that, and then also add this to the non-charter recommendations for later review if, if we decide to do that.
Okay, Bill?
I don't think it should go in the charter, but just considering the number of committees that we have, all with varying needs, that I'd leave it to bylaws to define it for all those different committees. But I wouldn't put it in the charter. I don't,
Keep it committee-specific, is that,
committee specific.
okay? Any other comment? Eileen?
I agree with both Nikki and Bill. The other, the question that I had was, so what happens now if someone leaves, someone moves out of town? Either you're a town meeting member or you're, let's say, elected otherwise on a board.
Sayonara.
Oh,
Bill?
If you're a town meeting member and you move out of town, you're out.
you're out, right.
Okay,
You have to resign, or you're just out.
okay,
Even if you don't resign, you're out.
all right. And if you're elected to a board?
You mean appointed?
No,
Elected.
Oh, okay.
Elected.
I don't know about the other boards, I just know town meeting.
Do you know? I mean, I don't think, I've not read anything about that.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about it, but
We have
it
not.
stands to reason that
It should-
your term ends when you
It should be in the elected
move.
board's part, I would say, if we're going to be talking about it, it should be there.
Right, I don't know anything to quote off the top of my head, but I'm thinking there's a lot of language around many different elected positions, and most of them, as we've outlined in the charter, at least, explain what happens in vacancy. Now,
Yes.
does vacancy get
Right.
forced because they're not there?
Right.
I don't know that I've seen that
Yeah, me neither.
necessarily many times.
Pat,
So we do have a section on vacancy in the charter, and we'll go back and check that again, depending on what you decide today. But in general, it's going to depend if the moving, some of the, I don't know how you do it in your town, but if it's residency is a requirement of being on the board, then that would just create a
That triggers that,
vacancy
okay.
when they leave.
Yes.
But your committees may do things differently.
But elected boards, you have to be a resident because you're elected.
Yes.
So it would stand to reason that the vacancy occurs when somebody moves.
When someone leaves.
Out of town.
right, right. And I just want to make sure that, because we just went through elections, we should probably be explicit about that in that section, that's all. That's the way it is.
I'm not
So
sure.
people don't have the same-
You always also have to be a registered voter and not just a resident.
All right.
To hold an elected.
To be, to get elected position, I believe you have to be a registered voter as well as a resident, because someone
Right.
who was a non-citizen is a resident, but is not eligible.
Yeah, I think the chances are probably slim that somebody was a registered voter and then becomes a non-registered voter, right?
Yeah, it's really about residency.
It's only about
You don't
residency.
answer the census for so many consecutive years, you're struck from the rolls.
I don't know anything about that, but let's just make note of that, Pat, for the election section, because I think that if that's the way it is, let's make sure that's it. Anybody else on the committee want to comment about what the residency requirement? Jack?
Yeah, on the issue of silence, if we are explicit on one committee to say you have to be a resident, but silent on another, sometimes the courts interpret that, well, they say when they want it, and since they didn't, it's not a requirement. This, in a lot of court cases, is the situation that once you take the position of being specific, you have to be consistent.
So does that mean, if that's the case, that we need to make a statement that,
If you're silent across the board, as some towns are, silence is not, doesn't say no residency required, but once you start naming a residency requirement in certain positions, silent on the others can be interpreted or argued as being no
Okay.
residency requirement.
Would that be true even if we're talking about a board or committee that's not explicitly mentioned because it's defined in bylaw, as opposed to defined in charter?
put two lawyers together and you get three different opinions.
I was going to say, I think we'll probably have to go with best practice in terms of charter on that front. I think that's a good comment, Jack, and we should make sure, Pat, you and I kind of make note of that. And if we need to have a sentence someplace that says, unless otherwise specified, it will be defined in the bylaw or whatever legal, language would specify that, that is what.
Well, you could say the default is you must be a resident unless otherwise, so you can put
Right.
that in somewhere.
I'm going to let you guys deal with how best to deal with
And
that.
also, I would agree, it should not be in the charter. Leave
Okay.
it in the bylaws.
Bill,
Hi.
hi.
For the record, I'm Bill Boyven. I am a town meeting member and chair of the Burlington Conservation Commission. The public comment that was read at the start of the meeting was from me, and it came up because I had the thought of, for the Conservation Commission specifically, the residency requirement, I'm not sure whether it should be mandatory in the sense that someone like myself, I got 12 years' experience on the commission, and hopefully I'm of value. If I decide to downsize and seek a smaller house somewhere, I'm probably not going to find it in Burlington, but I would automatically lose my position and my eligibility. Is that what we want? Someone like John Keeley, who was the administrator, or any person who's been on the staff, has valuable experience, but they're not required to be residents to be on the staff, the paid staff. But if they leave the paid staff and would like to be on the commission, should that be allowed? Now, I wrote that through this board, and then I also brought it up in front of the commission, and if you count the commission and the staff, I was outvoted 8-1, that nobody wanted to consider that. So take that for a feeling of the, read the crowd. But, to me, valuable experience, I don't know if you would call that, a outside consultant, if you brought someone like John Keeley in and gave him a position, or could you only do that for a specific decision-making purpose, if it's an outside consultant? In general, I came up with some other questions. Some of them have been addressed tonight, but I'll just tell you what my thoughts were anyways. That you need to define resident. Does that mean it's a U.S. citizen? Can someone who's been living in town for 10 years but is not a citizen qualify for appointment to some of these commissions or committees? Does residency, is it required for non-voting positions? We have the authority under the Conservation Commission to have 2 associate commissioners who are non-voting members. Can they be non-residents? They can still offer input to any of the discussions that we have, but they don't get to raise their hand when we vote. Which raised another question for me, and that is there an age limit? Do you have to be 18 years of old? Do you have to be old enough to register to vote? And I can think of 2 examples. One is, I have a young friend at the age of 17. She was chair of the Saugus River Watershed Association. She was that sharp, she was that good, she'd been on it for a couple of years already. They made her chair. She was 17 years old. So qualifications may be independent of age. And the other thing we were thinking in the last conservation meeting was, we have 2 associate commissioner positions. We were considering perhaps offering one to a high school student. Someone has a learning thing, they could study conservation, they could learn the rules and regulations, they could serve their required community service, to join in the discussions, but they would perhaps be not of registered to vote age. So, the age restriction, is that part of a consideration for all commissions and all boards and all positions? So that was another thing. And then the other question I had, which was somewhat addressed already, was the current wording of the bylaw, I think it's the bylaw, says, you can't be appointed, you must be a resident to be appointed, but it doesn't say to serve out the term. So if you're appointed for 3 years and after a year you move, right now it would appear from silence that you can serve out the term, you just can't be appointed the next time. So that needs to be defined.
Clarified, yep.
Yeah.
So I think all of those issues and questions, given, I think, the way we're leaning at the moment, probably are going to have to get addressed in the bylaws. And we haven't taken the vote yet, and obviously we need to do that. But I think that, I think these are interesting questions that you ask, and I think it's something that certainly would warrant a discussion with the General Bylaw Review Committee, because I believe at this time, that's probably the group that would be dealing with that. Jack?
Bill, if you need one or more of the associates to make a quorum, can they do that?
No, right now, no.
They cannot.
They're non-voting members,
Non-voting.
period, but that would be something else.
Yeah,
that
I
would
think
be dis-
many
decided.
committees have non-voting members. I'm on ZBRC, we have a number of them. And part of that is a liaison role, and part of it is other things. So that's a standard town meeting committee thing, just to make sure you have richness of input on these committees. So that's kind of a common thing.
And you may also have someone who could then step in if a position became vacant, one of the associate commissioners, if eligible.
It works that way in the Board of Appeals,
Sure.
Yeah,
but it's apparently not on Conservation.
okay.
The other thing, going back, I remember on the Master Plan Committee, we had many people from the business community.
Jack,
or some of
talk into here.
From the business community and some of the town professionals on the committee who were not residents. So that's an example of a committee where it's important to have people with certain qualifications or abilities, whether or not they are resident.
Right. I think this is an issue that should be taken up with the General Bylaw Review Committee, and those points probably should need to be made. Do you have anything further, Russ?
Yeah, my only sort of opinion side is anytime the charter is going to outline a committee or a group, and there is some requirement that we do want to have, then I think we should state it there. So
Yes.
I know the Finance Committee is one that we are going to have in there. There might be others, depending upon
Right.
how today goes.
Yep.
So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I don't know that I have a strong, I guess I would, maybe a little bit in the, spending the town's money feels like it might be important to keep that in the hands of the townspeople.
Right.
But I certainly think associates are a great answer, too.
So I think if there's any other debate on this, any
I just have one
discussion?
more question.
Yeah.
You talked about this should be a subject for the bylaw committee. Could this be under the individual, like the Conservation Commission bylaw that would allow that commission to have specific residence requirements
Absolutely.
independent of the?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that would be
Absolutely.
something. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So not to throw a wrench in this, but I'm just looking at this memo, and sorry that I'm
Right.
also, it's looking
Okay,
that
on this particular committee?
on this
Topic?
topic,
Okay.
yes, well, yes. So, obviously, I did not do my homework before. Now, however, I'm looking at this draft of additional article regarding appointed boards and committees, and there's language in here about a number of different committees, and it looks like established by statute, is that right? From the memo?
Yes. Oh, the memo, the Article 4?
Yeah.
Memo?
Yeah.
It's model language. We're going to have a discussion of whether we even find it wise.
Right.
to Put appointed boards
I
in
don't,
there.
I guess I'd like to stick with just this particular,
Well, I know, but it's related, because if you hear what Russ just said, which is that if we're going to establish it, we should establish the residency requirements if we want them in the charter, we should have it all together. So I think maybe it makes sense to hold off on a final decision about the residency requirements
Okay.
until we decide whether or not we're going to put these in the charter, if that makes sense, right? Because my understanding prior to opening this document a second ago, I'm sorry again, is that we didn't have any of this stuff in the charter.
yeah,
Right.
right, and we do.
And so if we're going to put that in the charter, then, I'm going to have to say, maybe we should wait until that conversation is concluded.
But aren't you going down a rabbit's hole with that? I mean, so which committees do you choose? I mean,
That's
that could take,
a different conversation, although this does say, that they're defined by state law and maybe you're not.
In the interest
Yeah.
of keeping this going,
Yep.
I think if it makes sense for us to discuss Article 4,
Yeah.
which is the appointed boards and committees, and then come back and vote on this topic so that we know exactly which appointed boards and committees we might be talking about here. We could certainly do that. I was looking at this more as a general comment that never mind. Let's wait. If that's okay with people, let's wait until we get to that discussion, which
Do you want to have that discussion
which is going to be
first?
next, huh?
Do you want to have that discussion now?
Yes.
On the Article 4?
Yes.
Skip the next
Yes.
part.
And then we can kind of wrap this all up in a bow, if you will. So unless anybody has any issues with taking that one out of order, but it seems to make sense, given the fact that we're halfway into that discussion anyhow, or a quarter of the way, and that maybe we should talk about that at this point. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go there, which is...
Sorry, one quick question. We're going to talk about elected boards and committees, that's what we go to.
Appointed
Sorry,
boards.
appointed. The question of standing committees, which are different than appointed committees, I just want to make sure that that's out there, because again, the current language in the charter draft says that all standing committee members shall be residents of the town.
And all
So,
standing committees
yep.
are...
That includes the finance committee, all standing committees under town meeting.
Town meeting.
Does
Town-
the school committee count as that? I don't know, probably not.
Elected board?
No,
But-
the standing committees in the town meeting bylaw article.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, it's
all
right, because
town
it is
meeting.
town meeting, talking about town meeting.
And
So those are
the
town meetings.
Finance Committee is a committee of
Yes,
town meeting.
correct.
So we're good on that.
Well, again, that's not quite true, because the language says, a majority members of standing committees shall be composed of persons elected at the town meeting at the time of appointment or reappointment. So there might be other members, I think, according to
Who are
this
not
language.
town meeting members.
Who are not town meeting members, who may also not be residents currently, but the language in this charter would say they would need to be residents.
Correct. And I think that's what that is the plan.
The current bylaws, if I'm hearing Russell correctly, the current bylaws actually say you do have to be a voted member. So that's how a voting member of the town. So that's how they kind of qualify residency.
Sorry, you're saying a current member of the finance committee must be a resident currently?
A voting, yes. That's what she's saying.
It doesn't say resident, but it says you have to be a registered voter.
So
That's good enough.
for the finance committee, the current bylaw says there shall be a finance committee consisting of 15 voters, the majority of whom should be town meeting members.
Okay, so the fact that they are
Shall be a
voters.
town officer and
Yeah.
employee.
Okay.
Okay, so we done?
So my point is, good, there is no change there, I make sure there is no change, great. So
Okay.
now if we go to the other ones, yes.
Okay, so why don't we go to the article on appointed boards and committees? This was something that I initiated because in looking at other charters for other towns, it was clear that there were lists of, not all of the committees, but of the committees that seemed to be significant. I'm not sure what the right word is, so I'm just kind of throwing that out there, in terms of identifying those in the charter. So I felt like we should not gloss over that. I thought there are some appointed committees that I thought we should probably reference in the charter, given the fact that I had seen it elsewhere. So I asked Pat to put something together because I felt we needed to talk about this as a group. So Pat, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, I will start by saying, as the chair said, this was initiated by her thought of, let's put something together to talk about it. And what I put together, we can talk about some of the other charters that you look at do have some lists of some appointed boards. None of them have complete lists. None of them have a real clear indicator of why something is in or out of the charter. And I think in general, we've veered away from including appointed boards in the charter to leave for maximum flexibility in the bylaws. And also, just for the very reason that it is extremely difficult to develop a consistent decision-making process as far as who goes in and who goes out of the charter. So, but for purposes of creating this list, what I did was I put in, well, first of all, the committees that are appointed by the moderator are covered in Article 2
Right.
and aren't included in this section. And what we talked about there is a huge list in the town's websites. And there are several committees already established in the bylaws. So what I did is kind of take a look at, and this is, I'll reference, this is just my look at yours and not what you might choose for yourself. I included boards and committees, or multiple member bodies is what we call them, that are in the bylaws already, established in the bylaws, and are not ad hoc, so they're not temporary committees, and included some of the other ones that are established by statute. But I'm not saying this is consistent. For example, I believe the beautification committee is in the bylaw, but I didn't put it in here because there's also a list on the town website of all current appointed members, and the beautification committee isn't on there, so I'm assuming that that is no longer in existence. That would be something to find out, but I couldn't find it. So I am going to share with you, and I used very basic language, much like what was in Reading, to define these, anticipating that they'd be further defined in the bylaws. I'll share what I put together, just so you can see an example of it. And the good thing about having the screen right here is I can see if it's actually working, sharing or not. Okay. And I think it would be, I think somebody needs to make it, I can certainly make it bigger here, but I think somebody could probably make it a little bigger. I'm gonna,
This one's different from the other one.
The layout in the top right?
Focus, yeah.
that helps at all.
Much better.
There you go. One of the things, just a comment, back here. One of the reasons why I raised this as an issue is that there are committees and there are committees. And as Pat mentioned, there are kind of non-ad hoc kinds of committees that, even though they're not elected, they play a significant role in the management or leadership in our town. And so as you look at like conservation being one, and I in looking at other towns where they do include these, it feels like that gives that kind of, the committee kind of elevates it in terms of its acknowledgement in terms of the charter as being a permanent thing and something that we want to kind of codify in the charter as being a permanent thing, not locking anybody into anything in terms of what they're required to do or how they're required to do it, but to kind of put them in there so that, because they're not going to change. So that was my rationale, just to...
So you just might want to say in the charter then, there shall be a list of committees, but not go to the detail, so further information will be in the bylaws.
I tell you, one of the things I'm having real trouble with, if what we're doing is every time we come into something like this, we say, please refer to the bylaw, what the heck are we doing a charter for?
Yeah, but you say
No.
that all the time, but there also, at the same time, we've deliberately said there are things you want to keep in bylaws.
I
like
agree.
flexibility, So
I
there's always
agree.
going to be tension.
I agree.
Between those two
But
things.
these things are things that are not likely to change. That we're not going to eliminate a Conservation Commission. We're not going to eliminate the Council on Aging. You know, these are things that are like more permanent.
But what if you want to change its composition?
Or change its name?
Yeah,
Or,
exactly.
right, like there are smaller changes, not necessarily elimination.
I think both are established under state law, so if the state law changes and you conflict with your charter, you don't want it there.
Well, the state law changes, then doesn't, if we refer to the state law in the charter, doesn't it automatically change with that?
Well, right. So if we put it by name in the charter, though, and then the state law changes, then there's a conflict between the two of them. And we know that
What did
state
we
law
do when we,
prevails,
we had to change this Board of Selectmen to the Select Board? I mean,
but then that would need to go.
Special acts.
Yeah.
right. So then we'd have to do a special act. I'm throwing out there because
Yeah.
it felt to me like there are some things where I think they rise to the level of being in a charter. And
I'll
not
agree
all
with you
of them.
some, too. Like, the Council on Aging is something I've become very intimate with and learned a lot about, and I'm like,
So,
Where is it
again,
defined?
we don't need to debate it. I'm just trying to explain to you why I felt it was important that we give this some attention, and I can see, because many, if not most of our town, a lot of the towns that we're comparing ourselves with do have this in their charters. I just felt like we were skimming over this one, and I don't think that's how we've approached any of this charter.
But have they been selective, those towns? I mean, because I
Yeah, I
looked
mean,
at
if you
Reading
look-
and Dedham and Winchester, and, I mean, with Reading, it's just the appointed boards.
Yeah.
And with Dedham and Winchester, it's elected but not appointed in the charter.
Right. So
I mean.
I think it's a combination.
But we have 6
of-
pages of appointed boards. So,
Yeah.
which,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Right. And
But, go ahead.
I would just say that our peer communities are inconsistent, and that there are, I mean, even in Reading, there have been, issues. I mean, there is a sense sometimes among the boards that aren't in the charter, like, why am I not in the charter?
Yes.
But there's also,
Yes.
there's also the fact that if you need to change the membership, because you just can't get, 7 people on this board and want to change it to 4, you have to go through the
Right.
process of a special act. So I would say, I would say that I wouldn't assume, because the other cities in town, the other towns, cities generally don't, the other towns in the charter may have had these, their charters may be much older, and so it was put in at the time. Another reason some of these get put in is because positions get changed from elected to appointed, and then they feel like, oh my gosh, they were in there before as elected, we need to find a place for them, so let's put them in as an appointed board.
is there a way to refer to them as a group to acknowledge the presence of this class of things, and there's some way to reference that these are, that you could find them here, and that's where they'll be, and, something of that nature?
And there is, to some extent, we have, in our general provisions section, which we may or may not get into today, they're called multiple member bodies, and we have some basic framework of saying there will be multiple member bodies, and here's some general rules about them. So yes, they can be referred to in the generic aggregate of, we have multiple member bodies that are created in these ways, generally by bylaw. So the other thing I'm just going to put in here, the language we put in, I did because, that was one of the towns I mirrored some of Reading's language, which is pretty generic. There shall be a Board of Appeals consisting of 5 members and 2 alternates appointed by the Select Board for 5-year terms, so arranged that 1 term shall expire each year. And the boards, and then for the powers and duties, the boards of appeals shall have all the powers and duties of zoning boards of appeal under the Mass General laws, and such additional powers and duties as may be provided by the charter, bylaw, or town meeting vote. And that, really goes throughout, but then you have some boards that are a little more complicated, like that may change. There shall be a Burlington Housing Partnership Committee consisting of 7 members, including 5 resident members with qualifications established through bylaw, which there was a long list of qualifications I didn't repeat here, like knowledge of certain things. Appointed by the town administrator for 3-year terms, so arranged, that equal number of terms, and then 1 representative from the select board and 1 representative appointed by the planning department. So it's a little more complex. So there's the easy ones, and then there are those that kind of mix staff and other appointments. So, you can take a look at it. But if you do choose to, and then there's the Information System Security Advisory Committee, which, has a very complex understanding of who's on it, at which I put some of it in and referred to the bylaw on the rest. So I guess if you, 1, do you want to include appointeds? 2, if you do, what is the standard for who's in and who's out? What is the level of specificity? And we need to make sure, for example, I didn't put the beautification committee in here because nobody is
Doesn't exist.
appointed. I don't think it exists, but it's still in the bylaws. So should that be in here now? Should that come in at a later point when you have your
The answer
first
is no.
charter review? When you have your first charter review. So, once you've reestablished, we've talked about having a bylaw review of checking on, who's doing what on these boards and committees. So you have a number of choices.
So I think that if we look at 4.2, the Housing Partnership Committee, it's sort of a good argument for not putting these appointed committees into the charter, because the Housing Partnership Committee looks great on paper and hasn't met for 2 years. And they did good work while they were meeting, but they're not meeting right now. So that would be my concern, is that, of course, the Conservation Commission and the Council on Aging are not going anywhere, but what if we had a cultural council that's not meeting? Or a historical commission that we can't get members for. That's what would concern me. Information, the ISAC committee is wonderful, they do great work and they meet consistently, but what if one day they decide that, their work is done, they've solved cybersecurity in Burlington. So I do get concerned about the possibility of needing to change these things and really not being able to for 2 years because it needs a special act.
And I take Betsy's point about elevating certain committees, but then you lose the flexibility of, now we need 9 members. I mean, there's that sort of thing, that composition, and I think they all belong in the bylaws.
Yeah, and if they're all going to say, shall have the powers and duties granted to cultural council or whatever, if they're all going to say that anyway, it almost makes sense to just have kind of a blanket provision for it.
I guess then I would propose that we vote on not including appointed,
Jess has her hand up.
oh, Jess, sorry, I didn't see your hand go.
No, that's okay. My only question or comment, I don't know which one it is, was also if by having them in here, it limits the ability for the town administrator to kind of, do his job and have reviews and make changes easily, given, some of these or all of these are under his purview for appointment. And so I am hesitant, I think, to list out the makeup of them in the charter.
Okay.
My only other thought I was having was, when there are occasions where sort of the state defines a particular nature for a committee, and then the town is choosing to say, yes, we're going to have one of those, does that make a little more sense to sort of declare a little more, because it's sort of saying, yes, we're exercising that statutory thing? Because I think I noticed that kind of language in a few places. Does that make any sense? Am I crazy?
Does the state
yes.
require any appointed committees? I guess that's what he's asking.
The composition.
Not requiring it, but more, if the state defines one and it says that a town could have one if they want one,
Oh.
and then the town says, we're going to have one, and it's one just like you've described, that's sort of what I interpret some of this language is.
I think I'm going to try to cut this to the quick, because I think where we're coming out is in the same place. So let me throw a
motion.
a motion on the table, which is that we do not include appointed boards and committees in the charter. It'll be covered under the appointed multi-member bodies portion of the charter. So that would be my motion.
Second.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a quick question? I see there's a section up there defining an associate member, isn't it? Is there an equal section defining an alternate member?
I think right now we are voting as to whether we're going to define anything in terms of
okay,
appointed.
fine.
We're
Sorry.
yeah, we're essentially striking this whole section, right?
Right, we're going to, if we, depending on how we vote, this whole section may come out. Okay, Bill,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Betsy, reluctant, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0.
Steve is on as well. Betsy.
Oh, Steve, hi. Thank you. How would you vote on that one?
Also, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. That makes it 9-0. Thanks. If you guys could keep me honest on the screen, I can't really see it from where I am. Okay, so now we're going to come back to the other thing about residency, now that we have voted on that. So I'm going to take a motion on how we want to deal with the residency issue.
I move to remain silent on residency in multi-member bodies in the charter.
Second?
Second.
I hear that again.
Motion to remain silent on residency requirements for multi-member bodies in the charter.
In the charter.
In the
Yes,
charter,
in the
which
charter.
means it will be happen in the bylaw. Okay, Bill?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Russ?
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Betsy, yes. Okay, 9-0. Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Oh, anytime. You're welcome to stay if you want to spend the evening with us. All right, moving right along here. By the way, I had input from Karthik as well, which you guys represented, so I am going to, on that residency thing, so.
Great. Glad we're on the same page.
Is there anything, if we're not adding to charter, that we want to put in recommendations regarding residency requirements, like any recommendation to examine them or define things like he was raising?
I think we should leave, I would recommend we leave it alone, and we'll let the bylaws deal with them as they will.
I mean, a recommendation to have someone examine.
I
You don't want anything to
recommend
do with
we
it.
just leave it alone. There's going to be enough stuff for us to be, in my opinion, but I welcome everybody's. Anybody think we should include it?
No.
No, okay, I'm getting
Right.
everybody nodding no, okay. But thanks for asking that question.
No problem.
That's important. All right, so we are now on Article 5.
Okay. So Article 5 has been somewhat of a work in progress because we've had several iterations, right? We had our initial presentation by the assistant town administrator. We had a first draft that kind of figured out what was going on. We got input back both from the administrator and from the Ways and Means Committee, which we'll be calling the Finance Committee. So excuse me if I conflate their names. However, the first thing I wanted to show you is, I've also done my own research since the last draft, looking into, what is going before town meeting? Is the school budget going separately from, the town budget? What's being presented where? So we've had a lot of input, and it's kind of evolved over time. So the first thing I want to show you is a chart that actually Mike put together, which, from my understanding, describes the flow of the budget process so that we can start talking about the language. And just give me a second. Open it up and start sharing.
I can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now, Jess?
Yes, okay.
Pat, you got to put it like right at your mouth because
Yeah.
you talk quietly anyhow.
I am trying.
I know you are.
Where you're looking more to your left, that's
Right.
probably a better situation.
Okay. How's that? Let me know.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sharing.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yep. So, I don't know if you can see this or if it needs to be expanded.
Expand it.
I can expand it here, but I don't
Ooh,
think that.
nice chart. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, awesome. So what this is attempting, what the finance article is attempting to show, and we definitely can make refinements after talking to you all today, is that it starts out with the town administrator creating a budget calendar and disseminating it to boards and committees. Now, there's been some discussion, and we've kind of updated some language that you didn't even get today, that the school committee should be included in the distribution of the budget calendar. And then it separates to some extent to where department, when we're calling it departments, but it's also, we may use the term town agencies because it might include something that's not necessarily a department but has a budget, like housing authority or, some other things. But essentially, the departments will submit their budget requests to the town administrator. On one hand, the town administrator pulls it together into one document and submits it to the finance committee. On the other side, the school committee is receiving budget proposals from their individual, from the different employees of the school committee, prepares a school budget, and both of these are independently sending this to the finance committee for review. The finance committee reviews these, usually separately, not generally at the same meeting. It's not pulled together until the end. And once they have made their recommendations, the information is pulled into a final budget book, which is supposed to be filed with the clerk 14 days before town meeting, according to our schedule. My understanding is that in the current process, the book that I've read for the last couple of years includes a line item for the amount of the school committee, but they haven't necessarily finalized their vote on that information and the individual tasks between it until after that submission, the budget book submission has been made. And then the town meeting has the opportunity to adopt the budget or change it and adopt it, and then that budget is implemented on July 1st. So that's kind of a flow of what's happening.
I think the one thing that's missing here is the town meeting vote.
Right. Right. They'll adopt whatever budget they adopt. That's their vote, right? That's the bottom one.
Okay.
And which is underneath the stop
Got it,
video and
okay.
share button. But, so let me stop sharing that. So the next thing I want to share, and I have to open it up in order to share it, is the most current iteration of the Article 5 language. And Mike, please feel free to chime in anytime. But the intent of this language is to be a skeleton of the budget process, not to provide a ton of detail. I know we provided a little more detail earlier in the process. Can you still hear me? Because I'm going back and forth. But thank you. Last September, town meeting adopted a very particular process for presenting, for example, capital plan items and other items to town meeting. And at first we tried to kind of incorporate that into this, but after reviewing it, it really just had too much detail. It was things like, in January, before budget, you have to introduce the budget if it's up to a certain amount. So it included a lot of detail that is probably best left for the bylaw in case that evolves. That's only really been through one series of budgets, and so it's hard to know whether that's going to work really well going forward and how that's all going to shake out. So this is really intended to be a high-level passage through the budget. And starting with Section 5.1 is the budget cycle. I guess I didn't share this yet. Make sure I'm sharing the correct documents. Okay. I'm going to make it smaller on one page, and if you can read it, great. If you need to expand it, please feel free. This is what was sent to the committee members, with one exception, a couple of exceptions, and that is with feedback from the town administrator. The first section is the budget cycle. Essentially, every charter begins with a statement that the fiscal year begins on July 1 and ends on July 30th. We understand it's state law, but it provides context for this budget. And the town administrator will establish a budget calendar consistent with Mass General laws, the charter or bylaws, setting forth key deadlines, and the town administrator shall provide notice of the calendar to all department heads. And I've added the school department, boards, committees, and officials, change the language to include the school department in getting a copy of that budget calendar. And next, we talk about what happens at the department level. All department heads, except for the school committee, and we originally said, and department heads will include the heads of departments that may be falling under the purview of boards and committees other than the select board. All department heads, except for the school committee, submit their proposed budgets to the town administrator by a date set by the town administrator, which is sufficient to develop a budget recommendation for the upcoming fiscal year. We had the language a little different for the school committee, recognizing that they're on this parallel path. The town administrator may need their own department's budgets a little bit earlier because they are coordinating the budget for all of those departments, where the school committee just has one and is running along the side. So it says the school committee shall submit the budget, and this was language proposed by the town administrator, I believe, in sufficient time and in sufficient detail to enable the town administrator to assess the probable impact of the school department's budget upon the total town budget. Okay? That's the next step. Next is we've included the establishment of the Finance Committee in this article. It's referred to in the town meeting Article 2 section, but here we talk about who they are and what they do. It's been brought in from the bylaws. It doesn't have everything in the bylaws because it still has powers and duties that may be ascribed to it in the bylaws, but it's kind of the skeleton outline, which is there's a finance committee of 15 voters appointed by the moderator for 3-year terms. Pursuant to Section 2.9 of the Charter, the terms are arranged so that 5 terms expire each year. The majority of the finance committee members shall be town meeting members. That's from the bylaw. No finance committee members shall be elected or appointed town officers or employees. The moderator shall fill any vacancies on the finance committee. Notwithstanding Section 5.3C, this is from the bylaw, a vacancy on the Finance Committee shall be filled by the Finance Committee if the vacancy exceeds 30 days after the Finance Committee provides the moderator with written notice of the vacancy. The Finance Committee shall have all the powers and duties granted by Finance Committees by Mass General laws, bylaw, town meeting vote, and other applicable laws. So that's just the general framework to understand who we're talking about when we say Finance Committee in this article.
So in your original, it was 5.5. Never mind, we'll come to that. Just a quick question.
Yep.
Bylaw, hyphen, is that the state required?
Yes, that's a
format?
legislative requirement. I do not like that. That goes
None of our
against-
bylaws use that.
Well, right, but your bylaws don't go through the legislature. They go to the Attorney General for approval, and the Attorney General is fine with either spelling of the bylaw. So, there were a couple places where we deviated
Right,
from it,
yeah.
just for your understanding. But in general, if this gets before the legislature, their clerks will have to change all of these things, and we really want to keep them happy and to the extent possible use the legislative guidelines.
Okey doke.
Yes, and we don't like, that's just how it is. And if you look at any Mass General laws, the term bylaw is going to have a hyphen in it, although if you looked at, the Associated Press style guide, it probably would not.
Right, okay.
Okay. So we've introduced the Finance Committee. Next, we talk about the school budget, school committee budget proposal. The school superintendent, under the direction of the school committee, shall submit to the finance committee a proposed school budget for the upcoming fiscal year. We added language, I believe it was the committee's and possibly the finance committee's recommendation that includes the accompanying budget message and supporting documents here. As you could have seen in the chart, the budget message usually comes at the end when the finance committee has finished its proceedings for the town, but there wasn't a place for the school to give their budget message, so it's here in 5.4. The school superintendent simultaneously shall provide for the publication of a general summary of the budget and a notice saying the times and places where the copies will be available, and that also mirrors kind of what the town administrator has to do. And the budget message is similar, but except for taking out the whole town finances piece that the town administrator will handle. Describing the important features of the budget, indicating any major variations for the current year, et cetera.
I have a question, and this actually was on the Ways and Means questions.
Okay.
Is that we don't require a budget message on the town, but we are requiring it for the schools. So their concern was symmetry.
Yeah, I noticed the symmetry, and later, when you get toward the end, there's a little bit of language that sort of implies that the town administrator will, when they present to town meeting, sort of have a message with it, but it's
Yeah.
not described as a message, so I agree, like,
Yeah,
while
so-
there are these two paths, I think it would be cool.
If they're going to be the
identify it,
same, they should be
yeah.
the same. The other thing for me that's missing is that there is, and I'm not sure how we capture this, but just from a process perspective, and this, again, is about procedures, this is a procedures section of the charter, is that the Finance Committee is actually working with both the town as well as the schools in terms of the budget, reviewing the budget and that sort of stuff, right? And then bringing it back to the larger committee when they're evaluating it. But they're part of the discussion with the school committee and the town. And I don't see that
Right.
in
And
here. And-
I agree, and I think, we talked about it, and we think we will add that to Section 5, that the school committee is a part of that, and that's not just the town
Right.
side. When we get to that,
Okay.
I want to talk about adding language there,
Okay,
because we agree that's missing.
okay.
Since we're noting things, Section D on the one before, it's a minor thing, but I don't know if it matters, that the Finance Committee, if a vacancy exceeds 30 days, the language in the bylaws says something about 30 days after the final adjournment of annual town meeting. I don't know that would matter. I like the language you have, but I don't know if that's a change that would matter. It's about the moderator replacing, it's Article 5 in the bylaws, 5.3 moderator appointments, 2.1.
Where are you talking here, Russ? Where are you
In the charter or in the bylaws? In the charter, it's this new one, Section 5.3, Finance Committee, subsection D.
Okay,
It's talking
thanks.
about how the moderator is replacing vacancies. And there's just a slight difference in the bylaw that says expired terms shall be filled by the moderator within 30 days after the final adjournment. That's different
Are you
from
talking about the other committees, or are you talking about?
Finance Committee, Ways and Means, moderator appointments. I could give you a page number, but they don't have
Well, it's
them.
intended to be consistent with the bylaw, so if it's not, we can do that. It says, I'm looking at 2.1.6. Any expired or unexpired term shall be filled by the Finance Committee when the vacancy has been in existence over 30 calendar days. That's
Got you,
pulled
because
in.
I was looking at 2.1, the first paragraph, there shall be a finance committee consisting of 15. Now, this talks about expired terms shall be filled by the moderator within 30 days after the final adjournment of the thing. Now, I guess maybe that's different from vacancy.
That's bad. That
I kind of-
within 30 days is bad, because now you're appointing people when the other people haven't finished their term yet. Their term goes until June 30th.
Got it, I'm not making a judgment, I'm just pointing out there's two different things of language, and I don't know if this is a substantial change.
Okay.
enough to matter, but
So Pat, why don't we put this on your plate to
Yes.
make sure that if it needs to be consistent, let's make it consistent. And if it doesn't, and then
Yeah,
it sounds like Bill has an issue with the 30-day thing,
30
so,
days after adjournment is a problem because terms haven't expired yet.
I don't have the 30 days after adjournment in here. Are you
Good.
saying that that's the language in Article 2? Or where are you getting that language from?
I'm getting that language from the general bylaws, Article, if I look at the bottom of the page, it's Article 5.
Not in the charter.
5.3. It's not in the charter.
okay, good. So if it's not in the charter, then we're good.
Because the charter would supersede the bylaw.
Because the charter will supersede the bylaw, which means the 30-day thing is gone.
There's a different, what's the difference between an expired term and a vacancy? Because those are two different words. And one says vacancy and one says expired term. Like, I don't want to jump, I'm very happy to let Pat resolve it and not resolve it now. I'm also happy to note that you'd like to maybe do a little more beating to that number, but I want to make sure you know where to look to see what I'm seeing.
I hear what you're saying. I don't have I cannot find where you see 30 days after the term, after the town meeting expires. I'm not seeing that part. 216, do I
somewhere
have?
It's not in 216, go up higher. It's
Yeah.
2.1, Finance Committee, Ways and Means. There's a paragraph, there shall be a Finance Committee consisting of 15. If I had a page number, I'd use it, but I guess I don't
Oh,
like pages.
expired terms shall be filled within
Bingo.
30 days of the final adjournment.
Which again, may be different from vacancy,
Town
but
meeting, which is different from vacancy. Okay, so
Okay, that's it. You got
I
it.
put those together. What would you like to have happen?
now we go to Bill.
That's what I would love to hear.
I would like to have it be 30 days after July 1. How's that? Or not 30 days after adjournment, because terms haven't expired yet.
So within 30 days of the expiration of term.
Yes, that's better.
Okay, so I'm just putting a note right in here to, but what about vacancies?
Va-
So vacancies should be 30 days within the vacancy,
That's fine.
and then expired terms within 30 days of expiration of term.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great.
The
We can
vacancy
do
is
that.
30 days after the moderator is notified.
After they're notified, right, right. That, absolutely.
Right. It is vacant when they notify town clerk and me. Until then, they're still on the committee.
Well, there's a difference. Do they have to notify you, or notify you and the town clerk, or do you notify the town clerk?
We talk.
But we should probably
We have to,
memorialize
like,
this.
decide-
We talk, will not work in the
Let's
charter.
notify the moderator, regardless of if it's Bill.
Let's have it notify the moderator.
Okay,
And the
great.
moderator
Unless we wanna write Bill
will
Myers.
notify
That's
the town
right.
clerk.
Yeah, do you want to be in there?
Right,
Okay,
okay, thank you. No, that's really helpful
okay.
feedback. Okay. So we talked about the school committee, the budget message, and,
I'm sorry, I have one more question. On A and B there, under 5.4.
Yep.
Does the title, that feels different than the rest of the sub-points? Submission of proposed school committee budget, period. I don't feel like the rest of the bullets follow that same format. And the same thing with budget message, period.
that they have an introduction clause?
Yeah, exactly.
So there was one
Oh, there's another
for
one down farther.
below.
5.4 has it, yeah.
I can take out the introduction clause. I guess that was just there to help you. It was a long paragraph to help you
Orient,
understand
to
what it's
orient
about.
people. I'm
Right.
fine leaving it, I just, I'm looking,
It
I
is
have an eye towards
inconsistent, and I used it
consistency,
again
but-
later in the,
Yeah, I saw that now.
because we're dividing it between two sections, but I can take it out. It's there for orientation.
I
It's a style
actually think it's good to have it there.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah. I don't think it's bad, I was just noting.
It's inconsistent.
Yeah,
or-
but for
you
the
don't-
longer paragraphs, it's not
Right.
terrible. Can we bold it or something? Is that,
I don't think you can.
yeah, I was wondering.
I don't think we can
Or
bold things, right?
italicize
Isn't
it?
that the deal?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
not going to be able to
Yeah,
bold
you're
things.
not.
The thing is, once you, okay, say this passes, goes to the legislature, and you bring it back, and you vote on it, and it's awesome, and you pass it, and then you want to hand it out to members, if you want to bold and underline things, that's not going to make a big difference if
I
it's
see.
helpful at that point.
Oh, okay, so we
But we're
can
just-
format it later. It's
Right,
really
we're just trying to
treat it as
keep
plain
it,
text.
treat it like
Okay.
a legislative bill.
Okay, great.
Okay.
On C, where you have presentation at town meeting for the same thing.
Yes.
Says the final proposed school budget, can we add with the accompanying budget message and supporting documents, which is
Yeah.
similar to the language you have when the town administrator does it?
Yes,
Or
yes.
that side? So that way it's clear that all of those things need to be together.
Yes.
I'm just going to put a ...
Yeah, you
so
got
I
it.
mimic the
Yep,
language.
Love it.
On C, does that mean what the starting date of town meeting is? Or if they're late, we don't have to postpone town meeting, you just don't pick that one up and discuss it?
Right, it says before the action on the budget article is to begin.
So,
I actually would prefer it to be before town meeting commences, because if, you don't know what night the discussion's going to start.
but he can control it.
Well,
He
to a
he
certain
can say, we're
extent,
not going to discuss it.
but it could be,
I need town meeting to say yes.
yeah, and it could be, if that happens where the break happens.
if school
at
committee's late, you have
8
to
o'clock at
postpone town
night,
meeting.
people aren't going to want to not talk about it and then come back another night, for example.
So if school committee's late submitting it, town meeting gets kicked down the road.
No, it just means,
According to that, well, it depends on how you interpret that language.
I think it just means they have a target that they have to hit.
And if they don't meet it, what happens?
They get 3 demerits? I don't know.
And we've advertised a town meeting starting at a particular date?
Does it mean, what does it mean? If they don't do it?
I'm
Go
just
ahead, your
asking a
opinion.
question. You guys
Your-
figure out the
Wait a
answer.
minute, I'm asking the expert.
Number out there, and if they're not ready, then we can vote whatever number we want.
I'm just asking a question. You guys figure out the answer.
We have seen some similar language on related topics that says, a lack, it's not going to be elegant, but it's something to the effect of a lack of provision will not prevent town meeting from occurring, or will not stop the discussions from occurring. That does take away from the impact of it, of course.
Yeah.
But,
I'd like to, personally, I like the accountability that this brings to it.
And what I haven't seen, maybe we have yet to talk about it, but dates. I mean, I like stake in the ground, sort of 4 months before the year end, or 5 months, or something like that. The town department heads have to submit a budget proposal, and the school department has to do it, 4.5 months before, or something. And then, 2 months this happens, and then 30 days this happens. I mean, it gives you some sense of, I get it. Now, some comments from Ways and Means is that, it's in the budget calendar. Okay, so that's some sort of airy-fairy budget calendar that I don't know about, versus giving some context with dates and following them, that I
To that
know.
note, can we add that the budget calendar is publicized to the public as well as to the places that they're distributing it, so that we can at least look at it?
I mean, and I looked at, some of the comparable towns, and, Reading, 4 months before the start of the fiscal year. Schools submit 5 months before. Dedham, no later than 2 weeks, before the town, well, anyway, sorry, scratch that. Winchester, February 15th, Milton, on or before December 1, in terms of department heads, presenting their budgets, as well as the schools. So, because at this point, I don't know, again, I'd like to be able to pick up a document and say, right, so, on February 1st, this should happen, March 1st, this should happen, and so on and so forth. So that there's a trail, there's accountability, there's a knowledge of what should happen, instead of it's in this budget calendar.
I am totally agreeing with you on forcing that. However, I'm not sure we're there yet with that. I think that the process that is now in place with the town administrator is a new one that they just put in, my understanding, that like they just started it this past year with having the budget calendar published in the fall, and they brought everybody together for a meeting, and then they set not only the calendar, but they set the target
Yeah, the
budget
target adjustment, yeah.
adjustment, which is not in here, which I think we should also have in here, but the target, budget adjustment, I guess is the right word.
What does it mean?
Like,
Goal, a
the goal,
percentage of
like
increase?
no, the increase has got to be limited to 3% across the board.
Yeah.
That kind of target
Okay.
increase. I don't want to say increase because there will be a time where there will be no increase, and it might be zero. But in any event, to have some reference to that at that time of the budget calendar is also, the town administrator communicates that. So I'm agreeing with you, Eileen, but I think that maybe we reference the budget calendar in here, that kind of like they have to comply with the dates as established in the budget calendar. I'd like Russ's idea that we also include something about how the budget calendar has to be made public through one of the mechanisms that we make things public. And I think that as a start for a charter is really moving things in the right direction, but not pinning it down so much, so that as this process evolves, my guess is that February might end up to be a January after all, right? That kind of thing. I want to give them some time, is what I'm
No,
suggesting.
I like a trail, I like a track.
I wonder who the CPA is here.
Nothing would prevent you as a town meeting member from introducing articles of bylaw that would enforce this at a more minute level.
True. I have a problem with essentially adding this management issue, which is kind of how I view it, into the charter. This is how the town administration, the town professionals are managing how they're dealing with the finances. I don't believe that belongs in the charter. That's their responsibility.
And different professionals might have different viewpoints on the right way to go
Well,
about
that's
it.
why they have already defined the whole thing with the calendar.
Yep.
And this section is called Finances and Fiscal Procedures, so we're kind of over that one. So I think referring to the budget calendar is appropriate, and and I think that maybe referring to the target, what did you say? Not budget increase, but
The guideline or something?
guidelines, yeah, the budget guidelines for the year. I think we need to specify that too at that same time, but to kind of leave it, but I do think that having wording for both the town departments, as we're calling them, as well as the school, that references them, that they have to, adhere to that calendar.
I'm sure they're going to speak up about this later, but we have to be tricky because there are statutory requirements around how the school committee does their budgetary things. And on the one hand, the reality is there's a conversation, there's advising that's happening. But I don't think we're allowed to put strong, boundaries on them in any particular way.
I think you can give timeframes. You can give
I might give
timeframes.
you, sure, maybe timeframes.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
That's timeframes
But
only.
I also noted the importance of, in my mind, it's sort of, what are the artifacts that are being made? Who are the people that are doing it, and how are they moving through? And one artifact is definitely the determination of sort of target, increase, decrease, whatever. And that determination is made by the professional staff in the town, because they're doing all the work to figure out what are the tax rolls going to look like and that kind of thing, right? That they present it at some point? Where's it coming up? Finance committee does it?
No, the town administration does.
It's a joint, there's a big meeting.
Yeah.
Finance committee, town administrator, school committee, school superintendent.
Yep.
They all sit down in this room right here.
Yeah.
And hassle out and discuss in detail what budget guidelines should look like.
All right, so that was in earlier drafts, which I think the town administration was like, that might be a little too detailed.
Yeah.
And it was pulled back a little bit.
I don't think we need to say how they did it. I'm saying, I think we need to reference that.
Right, that it
The
exists.
calendar.
That it happened.
And the
Budget guideline.
budget guideline. Those,
The budget guideline does not come out with the calendar.
but it doesn't say they're together.
All right, as long as you don't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it sounds like we're agreeing on the somehow acknowledging the existence of budget guidelines, maybe who's involved with that.
No, I think
No.
just no. We're just saying,
We're just going to say there are budget guidelines that
no,
exist.
it's in here, Russ. It's already in here as the budget cycle is, we're saying it would be done at that part, right?
I think the guideline part was dropped,
Okay.
except maybe I think there might be allusions to it on the town side as opposed to the school side.
Okay.
What about in budget cycle, the first sentence deals with the town administrator establishing a budget calendar. The second sentence says the town administrator shall provide notice of the budget calendar. What if you should say, and any budget guidelines?
Yeah, that would be good. Okay?
Yes, the only thing is, can we soften or include somehow, like the fact that that's, the calendar, maybe the administrator has sort of, we've said the administrator is establishing the budget calendar, period. I think the statement around the guidelines, we need to be more soft and make sure that it's in a more inclusive process. I mean, they can be, what is it, accountable versus responsible versus.
Or you can say, and communicate, and
Yeah.
communicate.
Communicate is a
And
great way.
communicate.
Because that way, if they do it as a group, I don't want the people to
Right.
infer that
That's silent on the process.
Yes,
And communicate the budget guidelines.
Yes.
And there is a perfect place.
Okay?
Okay.
So it now says the town administrator, first we have the sentence saying the town administrator establishes the budget calendar. Then we say the town administrator shall provide notice of the budget calendar and communicate any budget guidelines to all town department heads, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay?
Communicate any guidelines and the budget itself, and the calendar itself.
Right, they're
Must-
Yeah.
giving notice of
Yeah, yeah.
the, yes,
To the boards, committees, and school department, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
and to the public, which we've added.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Moving on.
Nope, this is great, thank you. So, let's see, where are we?
5-4?
Down to the town budget proposal, and the submission of proposed town budget. The town administrator, under the direction of the select board, shall submit to the finance committee a proposed town budget, not including the school department budget for the upcoming year. The town administrator shall simultaneously provide for the publication of a general summary of the proposed, same thing, budget, and a notice stating the times and the place where they can receive it. We have a short, kind of vague sentence about the town budget shall provide a complete financial plan for all town funds and activity, except for the budget as requested by the school committee for the upcoming fiscal year, except as otherwise required by Mass General Laws, bylaw, or the charter, shall be in the form the town administrator deems desirable or the select board may require.
Back on the A.
Yep.
After, there's no way. The town administrator, under the direction of the select board, this is part A, shall submit to the finance committee a proposed town budget, not including the school department budget for the upcoming fiscal year, again, comma, with an accompanying budget message and supplying documents? Does
So
that make
here's
sense?
the thing, that's not when they
Okay,
provide
I
their
got you.
budget
It comes later.
documents.
Okay.
Unlike the school committee.
Yeah.
You already understand this, the town administrator does that after the finance committee does its thing and refines the budget proposal, because it's the finance committee's proposal that goes to town meeting, so the budget message gets attached at that point.
I acknowledge all this. Now I'm just asking the room, I'm just asking questions, I learned from Jack. So if the superintendent or the school's presenting their budget to the finance committee with a message explaining what's going on, at some point, the town has done work to also come up with their thing. How come they aren't also, it just seems weird that they wouldn't also have sort of a similar message as they then present that to the finance committee and start hashing it out. I don't know, it's fine. Just seems odd that they would be not,
You mean
They're
not,
both-
you mean not together?
it's fine that they're separate. It seems odd that they both aren't, at the same point in our graph, they're both submitting essentially to a finance committee and saying, here's my budget thoughts. Why would they both not have a
budget
message
message.
describing?
Why wouldn't the
here's why
town
it goes up,
administrator
here's
have
why
a
it goes
message
down.
to go along with it?
Got it.
I understand that later, there's a sort of the budget, when it's put together, now there's another presentation at town meeting, and that has, by that point, it sounds like the message is more defined, and the accompanying documents are more defined. but wouldn't the town administrator earlier on, even when just talking with the finance committee, sort of be explaining, here's all the things we want to change?
That is in
That's what
practice,
happens,
that's
right?
what
Yeah.
happens.
He
The
does.
town administrator introduces every single budget and then lets the department head.
So if.
Take it away.
If he does, and if that is what the superintendent does, why would we not
Well,
make
the
that the
superintendent
same?
doesn't do that.
Well, sorry, here, talks about the superintendent shall simultaneously, blah, 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 earlier. The school superintendent, under the direction of the school committee, shall submit to the finance committee a proposed school budget for the upcoming fiscal year with an accompanying budget message and supporting documents.
Right.
So,
And that was a request from one of the feedback. It wasn't in there earlier.
totally, but I mean,
Right, and I
get
Well,
it.
that's
It's like-
good, and we should have it.
And I think one of the differences
Yeah.
is that the school committee has a unified message and a unified budget, and the town administrator is assembling the different departments and other elected committees' budgets and giving it to the finance committee, letting them sort through it, pulling it together, and then they'll have an overarching budget message regarding that. So I
see.
think
So
it's
the
a
message is
difference in
for
the.
the whole budget, not for, like, the Parks and Rec Department and
Correct.
the
Right,
police
correct,
and
right,
whatever.
correct.
Exactly.
Right.
You would think that they would also have their own little messages.
Well, I'm sure they do.
They probably do, but it's just not required at that stage.
The town administrator is at every Ways and Means meeting,
Right, yeah.
so they're always taught.
And every select board meeting.
He's presenting, for all these departments under the select board, he's presenting them.
So then, in the interest of, part of this benefiting me as a citizen is like, I didn't know any of this. Look, I'm learning things. And it is interesting to note that when the town administrator is presenting, shall submit to the finance committee a proposed town budget, are they also submitting explanations of why that town budget is something different?
Yeah.
And that is what we're requiring of the school committee and the superintendent, so why wouldn't we also require that here?
Well, we're letting them do that there
Yep.
because they don't have an opportunity to do that in the final budget. And because the line item for the school gets swept into the budget that's presented.
I think what Russ is saying.
I hear you, and I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their explanation for how they're doing it now. It's trying to mirror a little bit about what's happening, and it's adding another element for the school committee to have an opportunity for them to have a budget message.
All right, is there any way to, I don't know, when someone else reads this in the future, like me, and they come into the same, why is that like that? Is there any sentence that makes that part clear? Or I don't know. Maybe it becomes more clear when you read later and you get to the part where they talk about, let's go on first, because I don't want to hang us up too much in this, but.
Nope, and I would say another option is do you know how you added it to C with the accompanied, maybe the final proposed school budget, if you wanted to move the school committees down with their message to be at the same time as the town
No.
administrators, you could, that's just another option.
No, let's just,
Okay.
let's not go there. But I think, Russ, if there were, as a practical matter, when the town administrator does this review of the budget, they're looking at every department, and each department is providing the rationale for their request and why it's needed. And I think what you're wanting to maybe say in here somewhere is that it's not just the budget. We're not talking just the proposed budget, but also the backup documentation that supports the budgets that are being requested.
Yeah, and even in this case, you're explaining to me, and I guess I'm beginning to solidify maybe, that, school committee is one department.
Yes.
Town is many departments, but at no point in any of this are we saying the word department or identifying that fact or whatever. And by the way, the amount of money we know that is allocated for the school represents a massive portion of the town's budget in general. So even sort of, I don't know, just because it's one department sort of doesn't matter, right? What matters is there's a budget and there's an explanation. So we're saying clearly, if you're going to go before the finance committee, have all these things. Now, again, I'm willing to not push for anything because I don't know what I would say, but I see the similarity and I see the parity in what you want, and
Okay.
sort of how do you explain
So
it to people?
I think, and this is probably a good point, because what we're trying to do is make this understandable to real people, right? The point is that, on this, I think, is that when we talk about town budget, we're talking about the budget for all the departments of the town, with the exception of the schools. Right?
Yeah.
And that, I'm not sure was totally clear in this.
It does get lost later because after when you merge them and you have the budget book, I know, but I don't know that it was clear to be like, that is the town budget. I even went and tried to look up terms for it.
If you actually added,
I had to
I
check.
don't know.
I
if you
just
can-
looked up the budget book
Yeah.
today, and that includes the school.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But town,
So-
Section 5 says the town administrator, under the direction of the select board, shall submit to the finance committee a proposed town budget, not including the school department.
Yep.
In 5.4.
Yeah, my point of calling that out there was only just that the word town budget becomes fuzzy. We don't have a good, clear, easy to understand term, because by the way, I don't think there is one, that's like, school budget versus municipal budget, but then that's weird, or, like, there's not a good term to define the two as they go, and then a term to define the one after it is combined.
I think the only way you can do it is if you said something inclusive of all departments of the
And
town.
I think there's a place for that
I
in
do
B,
too.
budget format. It says for all town funds and activities, but you can say the activities and funds of all town departments.
Yes, I agree with you, and I think that might help.
I mean, and I think in practice, I know, because I watch every single meeting, that the town budget is not a single presentation like the school budget is.
Right.
Right? The town budget is weeks and weeks and weeks of presenting all of the different departments. So you can't have a unified message until you've got all of the departments, you
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep.
So, yeah, that would be my suggestion, I guess, for
So
that.
can you show me where you're suggesting?
Yeah,
language
in
change?
B, the
5.4B or?
5.4B, yep, 5.4B. Complete financial plan for the funds and activities of all town departments. First line there.
Oh, there's two 5.4s, that's the problem.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, look
Oh,
at
this is
that.
5.5, we'll change. the numbers.
Okay. So the town budget proposal B.
Run that language by.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me. I see that Steve stepped away, so he can't verify. But the audio is crazy garbled. I just tried to leave and come back to see if that helped, but
happens.
it's really, really garbled. And I've tried not having headphones, and I don't know what's going on. So just a heads up.
I feel
So I
like-
can't really hear anything.
I feel like that happens often halfway through the meeting and they have to reboot. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, it's crazy bad. So, I mean, it's 8:12, so it's okay. Hopefully it'll come back working, but just want to let you know that, like, if you're asking me a question, I might not hear you.
Okay,
Can you read it again, Pat? That
Do you need me to say it again?
Town budget-
Yeah.
next-
Sorry, I got lost.
That's okay. So in
It's now 5.5.
5.5B, budget format, the
Town-
town budget shall provide a complete financial plan for all funds for the funds and activities of all town departments.
This is the operating budget.
Except for the budget.
Except for the budget as requested by the
But
school
take town
committee.
off of in front of funds, for all funds and activities of all town departments.
Yeah,
There
for
are things
the
that-
funds
that
and
are not
activities.
departments.
So we will get to the definition section, but we may wish to use the term town
a personal
agency, which we-
agency smacks of cities.
Yeah.
And if we use agencies, we are going to lose people. So
what if
I
we
would
say
define
Town
departments.
departments and boards or something like that, and
Yeah, yeah.
multiple member bodies.
Ultimate, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just
Trying to-
stay away from agencies if we can. I've already got allergic reactions from it, from some people. I prefer not to go there.
Okay.
We do consider them departmental budgets, though, when we're like.
Yeah, we do.
Going through them.
Right.
But, yeah,
We just want to make sure we're, down the line.
encompassing everything, yeah.
That it's understood if somebody says, oh, I don't have to do this, I'm not technically a department. There are some departments of one that, do you call them a department or not, right?
What if the beautification committee needs money?
Right.
Let's not, okay, moving right along. Come on, guys. Focus is our friend now.
Okay, so, great. Next, Finance Committee action on the town budget, and this is, I'm trying to talk into the mic better here. If
Let's start a little bit differently. Does anybody have comments on this section that you reviewed, or should we run through
Yes.
it? Do you want to run through it?
Easier to run through it.
Okay, never mind.
So, and I do have one change that we want to make on, which Mike and I discussed, and something that Betsy brought up. So the first in A, Finance Committee meetings. The Finance Committee shall consider in public meetings the detailed expenditures, it says, for each town agency proposed by the town administrator, and I think we should add there, and for the school committee, or something like that.
And are we changing agency to department?
Departments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Each town department, or multiple member body. And we don't
But
need
it-
proposed by the town.
Is there anything,
Administrative,
I'm
we
just
say.
thinking about this, a multiple member body, like, what would that be?
I'm trying to think of a
Budgets
multi-member body
All
that
have staff.
doesn't have a department.
Does the
Health
housing
department
authority
does-
have staff? I don't think
Well,
they.
the housing authority is state
That's state
mandated. They don't
funded.
have a town budget.
That doesn't come out of the town budget. So if you take a look at everything, I think they all have to, like, Council of Aging has employees, so their budget is.
BYFS. Let me,
Cemetery
I'm just going to go look at the budget book.
Anyhow,
for a second.
keep going.
And we'll take, including, and we'll add, including the school.
Yeah.
Does this is for my own clarity, if nothing else, does the school committee have their own meetings determining their own budget?
Yes.
And then, in addition to that, there is also the finance committee then considering the school budget?
The Finance Committee sits in on those school committee budgets.
Awesome, great.
There are a couple things going on. The schools have to have their public meeting at a school committee meeting, to go over things. There are also Ways and Means subcommittee meetings, where there is a school's subcommittee that is meeting with the superintendent and maybe the school committee member to go over the budget in detail.
And we aren't required to add any language here that's clearing us or making it clear that the finance committee, which is a subcommittee of town meeting, is only allowed to advise on these sort of things as opposed to have any voting. There's language somewhere, I don't remember if it's a state law or if it's in here, but it's about explicitly saying that they can only sort of comment on numbers. Now, I know that's during the final
For
vote.
the school committee.
Yes, for
And
the
that's why we've been kind of massaging this a little bit, and I understand, that's why it wasn't in there initially. So maybe, rather than putting them together, they're considering this, so they're considering the expenditures and conferring and asking questions about all of
That seems
them.
fine, yeah.
And then we have them making their final recommendations, and the town administrator prepares a final budget book. So in the first one, we're not saying they're making their decisions. And then, and this is where it does get kind of awkward, which is where they present it to town meeting. The budget to be acted on by the town meeting shall be the budget as proposed by the finance committee. And that's the town side.
No?
No, that's
Oh,
the
it's
I
combined
mean,
book at that point.
It is combined.
Yeah, and
But,
that's where that word, that's where, like, there is no label, and this is exactly
Right.
the moment where it sort of magically changes, but it's not clear that this is the moment where the finance committee has made a final recommendation
Right.
on both budgets, combine them into this new thing, and that's what then goes forward.
Right, but there are some limitations
Right.
as to what the finance
Yep.
committee can do with the school budget.
Yep.
They can
So-
change the bottom line.
Right. But it's still a recommendation, right?
Right.
At least the way it operates in Burlington, the Ways and Means Committee presents the warrant articles. That's their recommendation, is what shows up in the warrant article. It's not the school committee recommendation or the town administrator. It's the Ways and Means Committee recommendation is what comes to town meeting.
So for my part, what I
In the
care.
form of a, wait a minute, form of a warrant article, right? Bill?
Yes.
Okay, so that is really the,
Yeah, for my part, what I care is that there's clarity for the reader that the two separate budgets, proposed budgets, now become this new thing, which may be the budget book, but somehow clarify that that budget book contains both of them in one piece. 'Cause
Okay.
that's what's lost.
So maybe that's in B. So after the Finance Committee makes its final recommendations, the town administrator shall prepare a final budget book, including the Finance Committee's proposed budget.
For the town and school departments, or something along those lines, right?
Yeah, I'm not trying to word it. I would,
But that's the
that
spirit
is the
of what
problem,
you're
exactly.
trying-
The
Right.
issue is that the Finance Committee did the work to combine the budgets. That's not stated as sort of a separate clause. After that's done, then the town administrator prepares the final budget book, which includes the thing that they just combined.
This is
Oh.
where I'm having
No, they
some
don't-
troubles, because that
Not how
doesn't
it-
happen.
Okay, then that's how I'm maybe
That's not what
misunderstanding
happens.
it.
Well, and that's
Bill's
what.
right. What
town-
happens
Oh, go ahead.
is that the presentation town meeting, Ways and Means, in the form of a warrant articles, presents,
But that's
and-
later. Even before they get the warrant article, they had to exit the meeting with a combined budget.
No,
Well, they-
they don't worry about a combined budget.
but it's not a combined,
Department budget.
It's the budget book.
the budget book has.
And that's done 2 weeks before town meeting, before they
Right.
even get there.
Is-
And that's what we're talking.
Is the budget book equal a warrant article?
The warrant article is so
Exactly.
vague right now, because I looked it up.
Oh, yeah, it's like
And
to
it's
approve operating
essentially
budgets.
to approve operating budgets as needed, or something like
For the-
that.
yeah, for the
Yes,
fiscal year.
For the
So
fiscal
it's
year.
at least, the budget book is an addendum, a portion of what is
I
the
think it's
warrant
like,
article.
would it be considered backup, Bill?
Yeah, yeah.
It is backup information being provided to town meeting.
Yeah. So then,
Wait a minute, I just want to make sure that we're all, Pat, that the process that we're using is, as Bill said, is that the budget book, as we're calling it, which has all the financial documentation for the town departments as well as the school department, are put together and warrant, and there are warrant articles for those things, and that is what is distributed at town meeting and voted on.
So the warrant article is what's established and passed out beforehand?
Both.
Right, with the budget, but the warrant article is very vague. It's like one sentence. And so the budget book is an attachment which has, for example, I guess, the motions for each
Actually,
department.
the warrant article actually lists each.
No, I think you're thinking about the capital budget.
Right.
The operating
I looked up
budget's
the warrant
operating
article, and
budgets
it's
and
one or
the
two
dollar-
sentences.
Yeah,
so is it
yeah.
true?
And it is the backup. The budget book is the backup.
To Article 3, yeah, right, or 2.
So what I'm getting at is, before it becomes a warrant, before it's wrapped in warrant article language, it leaves the Finance Committee as a budget book.
No, the budget, the warrant closes with this one sentence in it, right? And then the budget is budget book is the supplementary material saying what's the exact number that the the Ways and Means is going to.
But I'm saying, in a practical matter, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Do you
Well,
get where I'm
can I-
going at?
Do you mind if I?
Please do.
If I try, okay. So up until this point, we've been considering the school committee budget and the town budget separately. And it's not clear in this, is it 5.6A, the new 5.6A?
New 5.6.
It's not clear, or maybe it's B, it's not clear that now we're considering the whole thing together.
Right.
That's
There's a moment
what,
where they
Russ is just
merge.
looking for a couple words that say that the budget book has both the town budget and the supplement, and the school budget.
And it's worth noting, who? The Finance Committee. What do they produce? A budget book. What is a budget book? It's a combination of those two other things.
The
Is that
town-
true?
The town administrator puts the budget book together.
Then what, who, this is exactly, this is literally where I wrote, where did the two things join together? Who did that?
The town, the Ways and Means Committee will make essentially their recommendation
Yeah,
for
so that's
an
the first
operating
part.
budget number for each department in the town.
Yeah.
And you add those up to the bottom line.
Right.
Okay, so that sounds like the school committee did the work to put them together to come up with that number.
For them.
Yes.
Fine, I'm with you there.
We have all the departments under the select board and the planning board and blah, 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 with all their line items, and then there's school
number.
department.
Yeah, I understand. Sorry.
Really just need to add 2 words to set the second line of B. That's all we need to do.
Okay, which is,
Which is the Finance Committee's proposed budget for both the school and the town, or some,
Including the schools.
right, some kind of,
All town departments,
including the school.
Yeah.
That's where we're getting lost.
which includes the school committee.
Right,
school department.
but you need to state that for the reader, because we've been working so hard to separate them, that we want to make it very clear.
yeah, no, I agree. We decided we would do that anyhow. Anytime we include them, we're going to specify it.
And we haven't called out the school committee as a department. Departments to me doesn't say
Even
school
better.
committee. Yeah, so it's better.
I mean, it does, earlier it does say the school department. In
Oh, it does?
5.4 or whatever it is, the original 5.4, it does say
Okay.
school department in a lot of different places.
I think Mike has something he wants to say.
Sorry, Mike.
No problem. Another way potentially to handle this, I'm noticing there is a jump from the end of A to the beginning of B without the FinCom actually making the final recommendation, as someone was alluding to earlier. It sort of, they're considering it, and then B, after the finance FinCom makes its final recommendations. So I'm wondering if there isn't a sentence at the end of A about FinCom making its final recommendations, and we can massage the wording about how it includes the schools, knowing that it's a little bit different how it has to be dealt with. And does that resolve that? So now you've got a sentence that's sort of, here's the final recommendations for the town and schools budget from the FinCom. Then, after the FinCom makes its final recommendations, town administrator is preparing the budget book.
Yep.
And then there might need to be 1 or 2 other words in C somewhere just to reiterate that the budget to be acted on.
I'm good with all that. The only, I guess, addition or strangeness is when you get to B again, and now the town administrator is making the budget book, they include the Finance Committee's budget book, a budget message, and the only question there is, what is that budget message? Is that the budget message from the school administrator side, or is that the budget message that's the new one that the town's making, right? Because we made all this point to call out a budget message earlier, and that's just a little bit of confusion there.
Oh, it does say, explain the proposed budget for all town agencies except for the school department.
Right, so
That's weird.
so that's even more weird, because as I read, I think the clarity here, I'm not trying to reword all of it in the moment, but it's like, they're separate, they get combined secretly, no one knows, then we're sometimes talking about both, but sometimes talking about one, and that's where it gets wonky. And I agree, I want to match what we do, but I want to make it clear what happens.
The town administrator talks about the budget in general, overall, including schools.
Okay, so then it does sound like this section might need a little massage too, to make sure we're not excluding school at that point.
So the budget message does include the schools.
Yes.
This is because this has evolved depending on where we understood the
No
message.
blame, believe me. It's madness.
So then we can just take that part out, but we'll do it maybe one thing at a time. So I'm just going to put a place note at the end of 5.6, maybe add, come up with add language about the Finance Committee making a decision, making recommendations, right?
Yeah.
For both. And then B is the recommendation, including the budget for all departments, including the school, a budget message, et cetera. And we define budget message submitted by the town shall explain the budget for all town agencies, and instead of except for,
And
we
get rid of
can.
agencies.
We can say, we'll, all town departments for
Including
now,
the schools.
and say including the schools. Including the school department. How does that sound?
Okay,
That works for me.
Sounds much better.
yes.
It's
Definite
also
improvement.
red on the screen.
Do we want to talk about the word departments versus agencies versus multi-member bodies? I told you guys I was going to pull up the budget book, and of course, the very first thing in the budget book is town meeting and reports, which is neither a department nor a multi-member body.
But the moderator, he's not a
Well, do you have your own budget under this?
I do.
It's not in town meeting and reports?
Well, I guess they may have merged it.
Yeah, I think
it
it
was
is.
$150.
So there's that, there's legislative committees.
Do those roll up under?
What do they roll up under? Is it under town
Rolled it all
clerk?
up under
or-
town meeting now.
Do they have budgets?
Can you?
They do have budgets, yeah. That's what that's why I'm
we
wondering
use,
about the wording.
bodies?
So we can say departments and multi-member bodies, but then we have to do that throughout.
And what's,
And before and I know you don't want to use the term agency, and we won't, but I had used in the definition saying agency included departments.
right. And agency's really grammatically like the best word to use there.
All right.
Because it's an agent of the town.
Yeah, but we don't have any
I know.
We don't have any agencies. It just really is, you know.
Mike, do you have any thoughts on other things that have been used?
I was trying to see if there's a way to talk about expenditures as opposed to, but that's going to get tangled up too, so no, not yet.
I'm wondering, though, if, when you see, first of all, we're looking at all of these separately. At the end of tonight, what I'd like to do is take all these individual memos, even where you've not totally approved them, put them all into the draft charter.
Yes.
With notes along the side, what's approved, what's not approved. And I'm wondering if things like the word agency will be, if you have the definition section at the front, if that will help people, or if that's just too far away.
I think
It's too far away. They're going to be reading this thing and they're going to go, what the heck's an agency? And now we're trying to avoid having people having to go from the charter to the emails, or to the
Bylaws.
bylaws. Now they're going to have to go, well, what is this thing? They have to go back to the definitions. The agency doesn't mean anything to us in town government.
So, I mean, the only other option I see is saying departments and multiple member bodies throughout.
I say do that for now, and then we'll suffer.
yeah,
And then if you
There's
don't
no
like the
place.
way it looks,
we can deal with it when we
Yeah.
get there, but I
Can we just-
agree.
Can you just say departments and boards?
Well, what's town meeting?
Well, it kind of,
But what's legislative
I mean-
committees?
yeah, what if
That's,
we
like,
don't
not
use the
under
word
any
departments there as.
Can you say
Mike said?
departments and committees?
What did Mike say?
What, if we simplify even further, shall explain the complete proposed budget, period.
Heck yeah.
I mean, if you use, yeah.
There you go.
Brevity is the soul.
Well, no.
You want to
Including
say
the school
including the
department?
But then
school
you're-
budget.
But you're
you
going to
can't.
lose the schools. I think
Okay.
the point we're trying to make is, we could do that, but then we're losing what we're trying to do here, which is, yeah, why don't we?
Transparency.
Yeah, why don't we, what did you say, Bill? You said departments and
Committees,
committees?
boards.
boards.
Or the total operating, budget for the town.
Yeah, I think that's.
That's what Mike's
Yeah,
trying to
that's
get
it,
at.
You want to
That's
say
it.
including the schools if you feel.
Including the schools.
Yeah. That doesn't hurt.
Total operating budget for the town,
Sweeps everything.
which
Yeah.
includes everything else.
And I think including the schools is a good call there as well, just to be very extra super clear.
Yep.
Belt and suspenders.
Yes. Okay, is everybody cool with that? We'll let her go ahead with that. Okay, good.
I'm just going to put this in here, okay?
Okay.
Including the finance committee, proposed budget, proposed total operating budget.
For the town, including the schools.
Okay, that's up, so what about the capital plan? Do they have a
For the, it's same thing,
Capital-
that would be the same wording for the total town
operating
and.
budget? But I'm not
including the schools.
Sure, okay. Budget for
Because,
the town.
Capital plan.
Including the schools.
where are you? Capital plan's down below. And we needed to include the schools there.
Okay, okay.
Well,
we'll
don't
get-
go to capital plan yet.
We'll get there. The budget message shall explain the proposed budget, and at that point, we've already defined it, so we can take out the,
Yep.
Okay.
for all departments, this whole part of it.
So should we just end with explain the proposed budget in that
Yeah.
sentence?
It shall outline proposed financial policies of the town for the upcoming fiscal year, et cetera, describe important features, et cetera. So this is where this is where the budget message comes in here.
Yeah.
So we now have the school giving its in the beginning and the town giving it once the town administrator giving it once all the departments are combined. Okay.
Sorry, can't help it. A budget message for just the department is equivalent to a budget message for all of the town. Just saying, that seems strange, but cool. Please go on.
Okay, let's
Great.
move.
C?
Wait a minute, at the end, where we are, the presentation at town meeting?
Yeah, that's C.
The final budget book shall be filed with the town clerk in sufficient time to be distributed to each town meeting member at least 14 days before the action on the budget article is to begin. In accordance with Section 214A of this charter, the budget to be acted upon by the town meeting shall be the budget as proposed by the Finance Committee. So this is where, we talked before about we put that similar language up at the top for the school committee, because I'm not sure where it is now. 5.4C. And that is because, the concern is historically, this whole budget document goes before town meeting. It's put in the budget book with the one line for the school because it might not have been voted on yet, et cetera. So are we still keeping it separate? Should we still have the school have a separate requirement for submitting?
These are two separate things?
Well, no, what the school committee submits, their final proposed school budget with accompanying budget message, et cetera.
Oh, yeah.
And supporting documents, because right now, from what I understand, is the concern, I feel like there was enough feedback that it should be separate.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to key in on the fact it's a little bit
I'll acknowledge, and that's
repetitive.
awful. It's awful in every way. The whole point is you just had a finance committee do the work to come out with a unified thing, but we're
it's-
actually
yeah.
saying they're going to go two separate things to the clerk.
It's just the number, no,
It's just backup information.
Well, how did you get to the number without the backup information?
but the school committee budget, because of the statutory requirements from the state, we can't do anything with. So they have it as supporting
If
documentation.
you're all content, I'm
The way it
content,
is.
but I'll just point out it's awful.
But the number is still in the budget book.
Okay.
So it's because
So-
that's what town meeting can act on. They
So-
can't act on,
Both of them do say 14 days before the action or before the, whatever that phrase is, they're both the same, and that's okay with me, except I would want to add, I don't know if it implies when it's filed with the town clerk, does that mean it's also available to the public? Because can the public take a look at this? They should.
Well, it's filed with the town clerk in sufficient time to be distributed to each town meeting member.
Right.
So
which point-
it's the town clerk who submits to, or whomever publishes and distributes to town meeting members,
So,
along with the other information.
At that point, it's a public document.
how would the public, can the public go to the town clerk and be like, give it to me?
It's on the
Yes.
website.
Great.
Go see the town clerk.
Good enough. As long as it's enough that you guys are cool with it, then I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just
And
wanted to point that out, that it's now in
The
the,
only question I have is the action on the budget article is to begin because we don't know what that is, or is it the commencement of that town meeting?
yeah, why would we say the action on the budget article? Why wouldn't we just say before town meeting begins?
That's my point, is that we don't know when the
Before town
action is going to commence on that article.
do you have any input on that?
Yeah, it should be before town meeting. For one, for the operating budget, that's coming up day one.
Yeah.
Right,
The first
okay.
thing.
So
Okay, so we'll change in both places
Yeah.
to before the first
Do you know that month,
First
the one you
day.
target?
day of town meeting.
Yeah.
Do you know the month of the town meeting you target? Because we mentioned 3 months, why not mentioned the one
The
that we're
annual
talking
town
about.
meeting.
Before,
It's
we
May.
talked about them both all being,
But it could be that there are holidays and it has to move.
I get that part, but I mean, if you,
But it's the annual town meeting always. So can we use the word annual?
But we don't define annual as
Oh,
many.
we
never-
don't define
we never
annual
know.
because the whole point of your three-meeting system is to have all three treated as
Treated as
annual
annual.
Right.
town
I
meetings.
understand.
so I'm saying let's
So,
refer to the one the same way that we referred to
so-
one of those three.
Before the, we can say May, the,
We'd say May town meeting.
May town meeting, or you can say the
Can
town,
change.
or you can say before the town meeting where the budget will be voted upon, or something like that.
Maybe that's why we use this vague
I think,
language in the
I
first-
think, why don't we just say, let's see, what did I say?
Why are we backing out of the month if we put the months in the, labeling them in the first
didn't.
three?
What we did was, right, we talked about adding it, but we also said, or such time that the select board may choose.
Which is lovely.
So if you
Safety.
lock in, if,
So
which
why
is
don't
the
we do
safety
the same
language.
thing here?
Because it adds a lot of verbiage to say the May meeting or the meeting, budget meeting that the select board changed it to.
Yes,
So,
but there's two things, right? We're trying to meet two
yeah.
requirements. One is, we're trying to help the reader, who is a layperson, understand, oh, this is all going to go before the May town meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, in town, we're going to call it the May town meeting. Now, I realize in order to sufficiently soften and meet our, like, flexibility, we're going to have to add the other business. But maybe there's an earlier sentence at the beginning
Or-
where we define the May town meeting as
Not
the operational budget.
Why don't we say here, before the town meeting where the action, before the town meeting where the budget, or something about where the budget
Why
will
don't
be
we just say
made
that May town meeting?
in approximately
unless
May.
Otherwise.
Okay.
And then just like to, Russell's point, we're trying to make this clear. It's the May town meeting.
May town meeting.
How about say May town meeting unless otherwise scheduled?
Yes.
Lovely.
Perfect.
That's great.
Book it, Dano. All right.
So, I know you're going to hate me because you want to keep going, but there's still, like, there's a structural confusion that comes out of this, because this section, which we are now calling 5-6, just to make sure we're clear on this, it talks about the Finance Committee taking action on the portion of the budget that is the town side, the non-school. Then we added language about combining them, so that it's clear that when they're done, they exit with sort of the combined thing. And then when we get down here to the Part C, we're talking about a presentation to the town meeting about the final budget book, but then at the same time earlier, we've got that other statement back in the schools section, talking about their presentation to the town meeting. So there's, even as we have altered it, there's confusion here, because it's almost like we followed one half of the branch and we're restating a piece that's actually referred to in the other branch.
Well, just to confuse it more, they may or may not speak to town meeting.
So what if?
They are presenting a budget book as backup to their
Bottom line.
operating number.
So then, is there any reason, can we, I'm going to ask you then, can we strike from the school committee budget proposal section, which is 5-4 still, Section C, where it says, there's a presentation to town meeting, the final proposed school budget shall be filed with the town clerk in sufficient time to be distributed to each town, it's that same language, and we just strike all that, and here, we're saying, presentation to town meeting, the final budget book shall be filed to town clerk. Wouldn't the final budget book include the details from the proposed school budget?
But it won't include the budget message. What if in 5-4C, instead of presentation to town meeting, we call it submission to town meeting?
Or submission to town clerk.
I mean, it's less about titling the section, although
Yep.
that helps, because it's sort of like, the problems fundamentally come from naming an object, town budget, school town budget, budget book, thing that is the warrant article, right? There's all these objects that exist. There's the players, these two players, and then this third combined player, and then there's the sequence of time happening.
So the
And
best,
that's what gets confusing.
okay, so maybe the best thing to do is to keep them separate, and make sure that they're aligned, because they are separate.
Okay,
They are separate. So maybe we keep them separate as we had before.
I see. So you make C explicitly just about the
The town
town.
budget.
Right, so, okay, so in that world,
But it's a town budget including the school committee number, the school department number. That's because that's the budget, right?
So the problem is that the number's there, but not the other stuff.
Not the backup.
Well, that, maybe we should change that. Because you can't have a number without a justification for the number.
Well, and that's the point
And
of the
shouldn't all of
5-4C.
those come 14 days before the town meeting's going to deal
That's the point
with
of
it?
5-4C, though,
So then,
or 5-3C?
so then maybe a separate section, like
Yes.
5-7, before capital plan, where it talks about the 2 submissions of the supporting documents happen. It's only a clause about the 14 days prior business.
So pull those Cs out, C from the 5-4, and have a separate section entitled something like presentation to town meeting, and then have the 2A for the school and B for the town?
I think that would organize it better. Does that fit? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So I would say the final proposed school budget shall be filed. The
And then-
final budget book for the town, including the school's bottom line operating budget, should be filed.
Well, I think, yeah, and that.
Okay.
Yeah, that helps clarify it,
Yeah,
frankly.
it clarifies it.
Stating exactly that that's in there, because that, I didn't,
Okay.
I absolutely didn't get that.
Okay.
So pull down where we say capital plan, we talk about finance committee action, and then we have another section, start a new section.
That's
new
called presentation to
5-7
town meeting.
or whatever, something about presentation to town meeting, and then have, or
Of the
submissions.
budget presentation, I mean, it's because we're talking budget here.
Right, or we could call it submissions to town meeting.
Okay.
And then,
Right.
On
Yeah, 'cause
town
it is
meeting.
not really talking about a presentation, is it?
and
It's
then
talking about
have,
submission.
Yeah.
and then we can actually take off that first little part, because now they're both the same.
Okay.
And
But we
then-
just need to make sure it's clear, the schools.
Right, have something like schools, and
Okay.
then.
We're almost
town-
Two separate backups.
Okay.
But the school line, bottom line is in the
Okay.
town budget book.
Okay, capital plan.
Okay. No, this is great, thank you. This is great
Okay.
feedback. Okay. The next, it's now going to be 5-8, capital plan.
Yeah.
And it goes through somewhat the process. Each year, the town administrator distributes capital plan instructions to all department heads, and apparently that's at a different time.
And we need to say including the schools there, too.
Okay, and each year, the town administrator, and in this case, the town administrator's plan includes the schools. So it's a little different of a path. The capital plan includes both all along.
Yeah.
Each year, the town administrator submits the capital plan to the finance committee in a form, and we kind of took, well, we'll get there, in a form compliant with Mass General laws, et cetera. It shall be submitted to any town meeting standing committees charged with reviewing the capital plan. We put that language in there just kind of to explain to Mike, there is a capital plan committee, but they're not listed in the charter to reference them, recognizing there may be an evolution in what that capital plan committee is. Okay. It includes a list of the capital improvements during the
I have
upcoming...
a question about the word improvements. I don't think they're always improvements. They could be just projects. So I'm wondering if, like, improvement says to me, you're
It could
gonna-
also be a request for a truck.
you have something there already.
Yeah.
It could be an acquisition of something totally new. So I think we...
Expenditures?
Maybe capital expenditures is a better word.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Nope.
And I assume capital expenditure is defined in the definitions for the dollar amount? If not, that's a good one to throw in there.
For how much needs to
It's why you
be-
differentiate a capital expenditure from
Right.
not. And I think
Right.
that's, we have that defined in bylaw. There's a number,
You-
5 maybe?
You
5,
do.
15,
Have it
something.
defined.
There's a 5 in
Maybe
it.
if we include
A definition of capital
a
expenditures.
definite, well, I'm just going to put, that should probably be, you mean in the I don't know if it should be in the I feel like it should be in this section, not
put it
the
there, fine.
definition
Just
of
put it fine, put it there.
section.
Whatever's cool.
I'm just going to put proposed C.
When our bylaw sets up the capital finance committee, it makes the definition there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure we,
We'll
maybe
move
someone changes their
over
mind. I
the
don't know if it's
definition.
statutory.
We'll move over, well, actually, I think we should maybe refer to the bylaw, because if the bylaw might change the amount of it, but we'll define capital expenditure here.
Yep,
Yeah, and
Okay,
inflation
got it.
will change the amount.
yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, so the next one, C, will be a definition of capital expenditure. And the next paragraph is what the Finance Committee does with it, and any standing committees charged with reviewing it shall consider in public meetings the detailed expenditures and confer with representatives of each. And I know you don't want agency, so we will say each department or multiple member body in connection with such considerations. Committees may require the town administrator or any other town, we have a definition of officials, but or any other town,
Just say agent, say agent.
agent.
No, don't say agent.
We said
You can
agency.
mirror what we said about people coming to
Town.
town meeting, right?
Yeah.
They have to come to town meeting,
Maybe
so there's
for a town
probably a
administrator.
similar.
Okay, right, okay. Well, I'm just going to highlight that to find that language. To provide additional information as deemed necessary or desirable. 5.7, availability of budget and capital improvement program summary.
Capital expenditure, yeah.
Well, what do you call it? Don't you call it?
Just a capital plan. I
Capital
thought.
plan, yeah.
Yeah.
And capital-
Capital plan, right? Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I've heard it referenced as. I don't know if
I
there's
mean,
more
that might make your life
official name
easier just to reference it as a capital plan.
Plan
That's what it
summary.
says. Yeah,
The town administrators or the designee shall prepare and make available a summary of the budget, the capital plan, and related warrant. So the next part, 5.7, is just saying that once this is passed, the town administrator or their designee prepares and makes available a summary of the budget, the capital plan, and related warrant articles as adopted by town meeting for examination by the public within 20 days. So,
thing that happens in this town?
What?
you know, this is a suggestion.
summary
This
of
is
the budget,
language
capital
that is in
plan, and
some other
related-
charters.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I just have never seen anything like that I didn't write myself.
What, the last part, you mean for examination?
The summary, a summary of the budget, the capital plan, and related warrant articles.
Let's do it.
I have never.
I don't believe we got any feedback from
No, nobody-
the administration
Yeah.
that that was the problem.
Ship it.
Great. That's wonderful.
Let's be transparent to the public.
That's
Yeah.
a good one.
I mean, does the warrant serve as that summary?
I would think so.
Let them decide.
Yeah, I mean, sure, fine.
Well, the budget, I mean, they may feel that the budget book, you know, the sections where they talk about it, you know, the summaries in the budget book.
I guess the wording is,
It's a little vague. It lets them be
Sufficiently,
in there, and they can
Okay.
make the decision of how it's done.
Okay, 5.8. Oh, whatever.
5.8 is just general, and I changed the word warrant in the title to town funds, because I know there's a little bit of confusion about what a warrant means. So essentially, this leaves it the same. The warrants prepared by the town accountant or the designee for the payment of town funds by the town treasurer as appropriated by town meeting in accordance with Mass General laws shall be submitted to the select board for approval. We'd originally talked the first aspect of the Finance Committee article that we put down, so we suggested giving some of that responsibility to the town administrator to kind of take it off the select board's plate. I think one of the comments I got back from the town administrator was crossing it out and putting the select board in. But we haven't, right now, the select board is doing this, right? And we have not moved that responsibility over to the town administrator. If you think there needs to be any discussion, I think the town administrator just was acknowledging that's not how we do it. Right now, the select board does it. I don't think they were expressing a preference either way.
I actually think the approval of payment of town funds, I don't know how I feel about that, actually.
I don't either.
The only thing, I feel stronger about the word warrant. I think using the same word for two different definitions is absolutely ridiculous. No, I shouldn't say that.
Well, that's why I said
Confusing.
warrants prepared by the town accountant.
I
The payment
agree
account funds,
that people are
blah,
going
blah,
to think
blah.
of that as a warrant that goes to town meeting. I think, I understand that in legislative parlance, maybe that makes sense, but in Burlington, it won't.
No.
So I think we should change it to financial requests or financial something or other, and let's call it what it is, because I don't want to get mucked up in that. And that's my opinion.
Are we talking about invoices? Like, I'm confused
Yes,
about the
yes.
word. Or is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's called a warrant, yeah.
Okay.
But we can say financial requests. I mean, it's pretty.
Or invoices. I mean,
Right.
everybody knows what an invoice
Talking
is.
about.
Yeah, in the Commonwealth's glossary of municipal finance, it's called a treasury warrant as opposed to a town meeting warrant, but it is the tech.
What if we use the words treasury warrant?
Yeah. Like, are we going to get trouble if we don't use the word warrant?
Can we use
The
the word
legislature
like
could be mad?
financial requests?
Right,
Yeah.
financial payment request.
Financial
We wanna
payment
look into
requests?
this just to
Huh?
make
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight it to look into. Now, I do know, and
How about we
haven't
put
pulled it
it in there?
together yet, but under the select board's duties, one of the select board's duties was to pay,
Yep.
to approve warrant.
I had an issue with the
So
word
maybe this
there
whole
as
section
well.
doesn't need to be in here and left.
Well,
in the
two things.
select-
One is, there are two kinds of warrants that the select board approves. The select board approves the warrants for town meeting before they go to town meeting.
Correct.
Has nothing to do with money, right? Well, unless it's a financial article. But I mean, it's not like, pay this bill. It's not that. So, again, I mean, words matter here. If we're using warrant for the definition of the warrant in terms of town meeting and warrant articles and stuff like that, I think the financial ones, we should call it something else. And Eileen is the
Well,
accountant here, so.
it's a financial payment request, and
Yeah.
it's exactly what it is.
And if the legislature wants to push back after we get this thing approved, fine, in my opinion. But at least people who are reading this on town meeting will know what we're talking about. Because otherwise, I'm going to get people who go, well, wait a minute. The select board doesn't approve warrants.
Wait, but don't they currently approve financial payments anyway?
Right, but.
And
Not all.
they
I
currently
know, but we
approve
don't
both.
call them warrants. We call.
I understand that, but no matter which one you're talking about, it's still the select board that approves
Well,
it.
yeah, I have no problem with that. I just am saying I have a problem with the word warrant being used for two different definitions. That's all I'm saying.
Got it.
Now, just asking, would it help,
Jack, you're working.
would it help if in the
Lost me
definition
hours ago.
section, we had both definitions, we had financial warrant, and then we had something like
Town
town meeting
meeting
warrant, and a definition of each when used with respect to this? No?
You think anybody's going to read the definitions?
Maybe that's something with the state, we can,
Okay,
It's a negotiation.
Later, but for now.
Okay.
Right. I just, I'm sorry.
all right. And the last sentence, for now, I just changed it to financial payment requests prepared by the town accountant, blah, blah,
Thank
blah. Annually, the town administrator shall retain a certified public accountant or qualified accounting firm to conduct independent annual audit, and yes,
I would like to add maybe something like the results of which will be made available to the public. Because, cool, you retained someone. Did they do it? What did they do with it? What did they find? I would like to know.
okay.
Good ad, Russ.
You want to put a
Right.
time frame on when they have to make it public?
Say again?
You want to put a time frame on when they have to make it public?
Love it.
Within 30 days
Of when it's completed?
of completion?
Sure.
I mean, just post it on the website.
I'm not saying how they make it available to the
Right.
public.
That's what happens now.
Okay. And we're, and we're still going to be submitting for further discussion,
Yeah, yeah.
so the select board may say, how about a summary, not this? We don't want to highlight certain,
Right, details.
Maybe we
Details.
should say a summary of which should be posted. and
Oh, that's a good
discuss
way.
it,
Yeah, that's
Because
fine.
nobody's going to want to read an audit report other than the financial person.
Then again,
There's no summary, I mean,
Huh?
there's no summary, it's a 20-page report.
Actually, it's
Okay.
public finance. Why shouldn't the
Yeah.
whole thing be available? I mean, it can have a
It
summary or
is
not, like.
available.
Public document, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we'll
okay.
just put this in as is. and
It's in the
hear-
annual
and-
report already,
And
right?
listen if there's any,
Okay.
you know.
All right.
So we made it through this.
I was going to just to go back to the operating budget discussion, and one thing I will throw out there as an idea, if it will, you think it will make people more comfortable, is I've seen in other charters, I pulled one that says, "Town meeting may establish additional procedures applicable to consideration and adoption of the budget that are not inconsistent with this charter." So just to give you another hook in to, we put the framework here. We try not to get too detailed. If you want to add more, if town meeting wants to add more details, it can.
Which it has already in the bylaw. So, I mean, I think that's good language.
Okay.
But if you think, is that something you'd like to add? Maybe you could read it.
Okay by me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
I can send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll put this in
Awesome.
here.
All right, so we made it through the financial article. Wow, 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 wow,
Monster.
wow.
Yeah.
But that is one of the meatiest ones that we have to go through. We made it through the appointed boards. We did not go through the administrative or general provisions or transition, and given the time, which is now 9 o'clock, I think we're going to hold those to next meeting. I did get some feedback, which I shared with Pat, that the administrative section was pretty vague, and that we might want to beef it up a little bit, kind of in looking at some of the other charters and see if maybe we might want to add some more substance to it.
Also, just so you know, in Article 6, 6.1B, there's a he in there. There's a.
Oh, yes, I
gender-
noticed that, too.
Gender zing.
Jumped right out at
I
me.
know, me too.
Before you move on, the draft of the discussion document, draft of additional articles regarding appointed boards and committees, down the bottom of the page, describing the Board of Appeals. Mass General laws allow some boards of appeals to make use variances. Burlington doesn't, so I think you need to exclude use variances.
I mean, we voted to not adopt that, or that whole
The
article.
whole thing, so that is out.
So
That is
what?
out,
So it was submitted to me, all right.
which makes it easier, right?
I mean, tonight, just tonight. We voted
Right.
not to adopt that.
So really, if you take a look at the memo for the administrative organization definitions, which I think there are a lot more definitions than what are listed here that we're going to need to have in there, right? Is this all that you've captured that we need to define?
In general, we try to put the definitions in the sections where they are applied.
Okay.
So these are some standard ones that are in others that might be overreaching over all of the provisions, but if more specific ones are, if it's needed, we'll put it, if somebody decides that it's not, like
Okay.
warrant, for example, we'll either change warrant or we'll put a definition in that section.
Okay. All right, so we'll talk about these next time. One of the things that I'd like to propose that get added to the next memo, that as I looked at other towns, there was a list of things like town council, town accountant, town treasurer, town tax and controller, which is missing from the administrative section, and I think it needs to be in there. So,
So, well, Mike can talk about this too. In general, that is something that we encourage not to have individual definitions of individual people.
I'm not talking
for change-
definitions now, I'm talking about the administrative section.
Yeah, but they're definitions of their role.
So,
Oh.
yeah,
Aren't there, Betsy? I mean,
Yes.
you're talking about the ones that supposed to have like Public Works Department.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
and
yeah,
town
and
council.
I'm saying not those. I'm saying that there were certain ones that seemed to come up all the time, not a whole laundry list, but they were like, because a lot of times we say, except for town council, town accountant, town treasurer, and the tax collector. Those were the four that I saw that came up, 1, 2, 3, 4, as I was looking through different charters as being in that administrative section. And if you look at the org chart that we have, that those are the ones that, well,
those were the ones that reported directly to the select board, so in the special act, and they were held out. So these sections do change. For example, there's been a move to, combine treasurer and collector to treasurer and collector, and it could go the opposite way. But let me think on that a
Yeah, I
little
think we
bit.
just think about it and take a
Because-
look at some of the other towns and see what they do. It just felt like we were,
But
what happens to those? It kind of,
So I think oftentimes when the administrative organization article has a couple of called out pieces, it's because in addition to adopting a first charter, they were also trying to make some changes. And so they put something in there that was different than what they had. We particularly see that a lot with Public Works. So you might have a smaller town that has 5 different Public Works-like divisions with not a centralized department. They adopt their first charter, and in the process of doing that, they create a new Public Works department in the administrative organization article. So I think some of that is what you're seeing there. So we can talk about it further. I mean, as Pat was alluding to, if there are potential changes that are going to that could happen to one of those departments, you have that issue. You also have the question of others asking, well, why is the accountant in there, but not the assessor, or why is, this, not that? So just something that we can address that more in the next meeting.
I also think that, at this point, even though we have these separate memos, I'm going to pull those memos into a complete charter document. So we're looking at one thing. And I think that the next step, Mike and I are both going back in here looking for internal consistencies. So reading it as an entire document instead of as sections. So that's a review that we'll continue to have.
okay, so our next meeting is, because this was a special meeting, is,
Tuesday.
right?
Sorry, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. So we will be talking about the administrative, basically the last 3 sections.
Yeah.
Well, hear me, last 3 sections. The meeting we do afterwards, we're going to look at the whole charter, kind of go through the whole charter, so you'll have it ready. Pat's going to have it ready for then, so then we can kind of go through, which means everybody should bring in, comments and stuff like that for that meeting.
So I was just going to ask you, in my, dual analysis,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
highlighted, there's many, 10, 15 items that are, some of them are probably unintentional changes, and I feel like we need to be yes, did we mean that?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, do you want me to give them to you, or you've already got the document to be
Did you send it?
I did, consolidating all of those things. It's I want to sort of give them to you first.
Yeah.
So
I
that you
would
can
like
make
to see
one
them.
I'll
thing,
give it to you.
here's
I'm sure the
great,
chair
all
will
right.
send it to me.
Yes, as soon as I get it, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And so if there are things, it would be helpful, because as she's incorporating this stuff, if there's something we missed or we need to flag,
We'll leave
Pat will
make a
flag it
comment.
in this
Yes.
last discussion document.
Also, it could have mistakes. Just saying.
Huh?
I could have mistakes in my analysis.
What?
Yeah, it's possible.
Russell? All right. Thank you all. I know this is a slug, but we're really almost there. We're in the home stretch of this, and then it's going to be all about getting it sold, and we have another subcommittee for that. By the way, I put a list, just in case you're interested, of all the meeting dates for all the meetings we've had, so we could put it in the report and certainly on a slide. And just so you have a visual, and that's not including everything, but that's what I have so far. There's a couple of subcommittees that are missing, but yikes is right. So this is a lot of work, and thank you all very much. A motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
See you next